Breaker. I'm joined by my man, Ship My Money DFS, aka Adam Scherer. Adam, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Looking forward to a nice 8-game Friday slate. It's nice to not have like 11 or 12 games. How's your Friday go?
It's good, man. Yeah, I have to agree. They've done a nice job balancing it out. Last night, Thursday, that used to be 2 or 3 games. Now we had
Yeah.
6 and 8. Pretty nice distribution, and I think that'll make it a little bit more fun. Not have to have that choice paralysis a bit. But I'm going to cut right to the chase here, man. What are you doing with Jae Crowder in this revenge game? Of course, he's going up against Utah, who he played for last year. Um, so is there any way that you're gonna fade him?
I really don't know how you can. I mean, we had Markelle Fultz the other night, go nuts in his 21 minutes of revenge, and now it's Jae Crowder.
That's right. I'm glad that you're endorsing this play here because I thought maybe I was going crazy. I haven't heard any talk about Jae Crowder tonight. Anyway, yeah, let's just cut right to it because there was some big breaking news that just came out. This Washington Minnesota game, I have to say, it's the game of the night for DFS purposes. I mean, two teams that probably won't be big factors this year as far as the championship, but this game has the highest over under by a lot at 240. And we just got the news that Andrew Wiggins is out for the night. And that's really interesting because he's been their point guard, basically, getting a ton of assists, putting up huge fantasy scores, and winning people a lot of money. So going to the Timberwolves, a great matchup versus Washington. What are you doing in reaction to this news?
So I think it's obviously a bump for Towns and for Teague, who I think were good plays anyway. Now they just became even better. It also opens the door for a lot of guys on Minnesota that you're not going to really feel comfortable rostering, but that can at least be viable value options on a slate that had very little, whether that's Josh Okogie, Jarrett Culver, Jake Layman, potentially Treveon Graham, who's the cheapest of the group. You also have a cheap Robert Covington. So it was already a team and a really appealing game. Now it's just more offensive opportunities for guys like Towns and Teague, potentially more offensive opportunities for Covington, and then more minutes for those other guys that will probably run around and not really do anything.
Yeah, I think that'll be really interesting because a lot of those guys that you mentioned that are just running around, they're pretty cheap. So I mean, like I'm getting a little tempted over here by Treveon Graham, Josh Okogie, Robert Covington. But let's start with the big players here. First of all, who do you expect to start tonight?
I'm expecting Okogie to start for Wiggins. I think it'll either be him or Culver. The reason I think Okogie is just because the last game that Teague was out, they sent Culver back to the bench. They put Okogie in the starting lineup. And then in the most recent game, it was basically like Teague, Culver, Okogie, and Wiggins subbing in and out for each other. So it's purely a guess. I have them projected for the same minutes regardless of who starts. But my guess is that Josh Okogie starts.
Yeah, so I think we're looking at interesting rotation here. There's some question about whether Jordan McLaughlin is back with the team, so we'll try to figure that out within the next hour here. But so if he's not, then would you expect Jarrett Culver to be the backup point guard, or maybe would we see another Culver start and he come off the bench?
Yeah, I think he would. If McLaughlin's not there, I think Culver's definitely the backup point guard. If McLaughlin is there, I still think you get some backup point minutes for Culver. If I project McLaughlin in, I still don't expect him to play more than like 12, 14 minutes. So I had it at Teague with 30 at point, McLaughlin at 12, and then Culver getting the rest. So I do think that it's potentially more minutes. If McLaughlin's not with the team, I think it's just more minutes for guys like Culver and Okogie and Graham.
Nice. So Okogie and Graham, I mean, these guys are pretty cheap. Okogie actually a little bit more expensive than you might think. The mid 4Ks on DraftKings and FanDuel. Graham, the cheaper one, but he's been the starter. Are you going to be sprinkling these guys in your lineups, or are they core pieces?
The guys that aren't Towns, Teague, and Covington are just going to be guys that I'm sprinkling in because I don't trust any one of them individually to have a good game. None of them are high usage guys. None of them are high peripheral guys. All of that stuff is going to go to Teague and Towns and to some extent Covington. But because Washington's a bad defensive team, Minnesota's played at the 4th fastest pace this year. Washington's played at the 7th fastest pace. There should be a ton of possessions, a ton of rebound opportunities just because of the pace of the game. And being on the floor for 30 or more minutes is still valuable. So it's really tough, I think, to pinpoint which of these guys is going to be the best. But I think that on a slate with very little value, one of them at least probably ends up being one of the better value plays.
That's a good point. I mean, Corey Joseph might have something to say about this 30 minutes not business that you're talking about, but I think that, I mean, 30 minutes and 3,700 for Graham, like, even though he's not that productive, that's a pretty good price. One guy I'm really interested in addition to Teague and Towns, who I take it are the core plays here, is Robert Covington. I think he's been losing minutes this year, only averaging 26 because Jake Layman off the bench has been averaging 26 himself. So do you think that when now that we have Wiggins out, there's just more minutes to go around and maybe Rocco sees a normal workload tonight?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point that I kind of had overlooked because like I was mapping it out and he's just been kind of stuck at those 28 minutes or less for like the entire season. But I don't necessarily think that that has to be the case. Like you don't when you're starting to project guys like Josh Okogie and Jarrett Culver for 30 or more minutes or Treveon Graham, I think it's a logical point to just say that you could give some of that to Covington too.
Yeah, he's a guy that I've been gambling on a lot this year, and it's been a roller coaster. He's had a couple of good games, but Covington, I think he gets a nice bump, and the price is good. He's more productive than Graham and Okogie for sure when he's on the court, so I think he's a nice play. Of course, we got to talk about our sponsor here, Yahoo Fantasy. They're really up in their game this season with NBA. They have a 50K prize pool tonight. That's one of the bigger in the industry. And I think you can really get an edge in NBA in particular by focusing your efforts on a site other than DraftKings and FanDuel, because with NBA, you got to react to late news so quickly that if a lot of these guys are playing 3 or 4 sites, and there are a lot of great sites to play on. But if you dedicate yourself to playing on one of the sites that maybe is tertiary for another player, you can get an edge that way by reacting a lot faster. So, Adam, how many sites do you typically play on, like in a given night for NBA? Like, do you have? Is it tricky to adapt to all the late news?
Yeah, for NBA, I usually just do a couple of sites. For NFL, I do all of them. Just and that's the entire reason is just the late news. Like I have an hour after this show to get all my stuff finalized, and playing tons of sites gets pretty tough.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of our viewers out here, they're working and getting off close to lock. So in general, like being able to do everything within an hour is pretty important. And I think that picking a site maybe that's more contrarian can really pay off.
Hey guys,
On the other side,
I just want to bust in here for a second. Per the Timberwolves PR Twitter account at 4:46 Eastern, the Wolves have transferred two-way player Keelan Martin to Minnesota, and he is available today. Does not appear that Jordan McLaughlin is the guy that's going up.
that's pretty relevant news, man. Thanks, Josh.
Yep.
So that means that the rotation is going to be a lot trickier tonight for the Wolves, because that means they only have 7 non-center players or 6 non-center players, looks like, not counting Martin. Do you think Martin would get in the rotation, or is he just kind of in case of emergency?
I assume he's there basically just as an emergency guy, but the one difference it makes for me knowing that the body is there is that like if they didn't have that body, you have to project 240 minutes. So you have to start giving like mid 30s to some of the guys like Graham or Okogie or something. But knowing they have that extra body, you can kind of just like give 30-minute projections to all these guys and then throw the extra like 6 minutes to Martin, because obviously it changes it'll entirely change your lineups if you're giving like 36 minutes to someone as opposed to 30. So I think that at least knowing that body is there is important.
Definitely. So one major question here is Jeff Teague, coming back from this illness, was limited last game. Do you think he'll still be limited, or like how would you approach this situation? Would you project him for being a full go and maybe play 30 plus?
Yeah, so I have him at 30, and the reason is that while he only played between 22 and 23 minutes last game, that game blew out and he missed the last like 4+ minutes of that game. And I think he would have played them because you had Ryan Saunders before the game when Culver was starting over Teague. He said, "I really don't care who starts, I care who closes." And then you saw Teague in there to close the game. So I think that they were basically set up for him to play 26 to 27 minutes there. He ended up not needing to, but I don't think that the intention was to limit him to 22 minutes. So I think it's pretty logical that if they felt he was capable of playing 26 or 27 minutes there, that he can probably go for, at least 30 today.
I like it. He's pretty cheap on DraftKings, 5,300, so that makes a nice play. Robert Covington is really jumping out at me as an amazing value at his price. Kind of spending a lot of time on this game because it seems like the most pivotal of the night here. On the other side, I think there's also some good plays, but not as much injury situation. So lately, Troy Brown has been starting over Isaac Bonga for the Wizards. He's been kind of not doing anything as far as fantasy. Isaiah Thomas last game went on and played more than 30 minutes. Of course, he's a pretty big producer, but playing around alongside Bradley Beal, his production hasn't been quite as good. And then, of course, Beal, he's been terrific, playing 36 minutes a night on average. His price is pretty cheap tonight. So, what's your starting piece here for the Wizards?
Beal's the main piece for me because I think his salary is just still really depressed because of poor shooting to start the season. But this is someone that we have a really long track record of, him being a good shooter and being a good scorer. He's playing monster minutes again this year after being one of the league leaders in minutes last year. And even since Isaiah Thomas joined the starting lineup, Beal has a 31.1% usage rate, a little over a 26% assist percentage. So he's not the one taking the hit from Isaiah Thomas being in the starting lineup. It's Isaiah Thomas who has a 20.8% usage rate and whose assist percentage is at 27.5%. So, as expected, you're still seeing this offense entirely run through Beal. He's playing huge minutes. It's a fast-paced Minnesota team that ranks in the middle of the pack defensively. So I think Beal's the one that really stands out as like a core play for me. And then you just get some solid values on guys that at least have ceilings in Isaiah Thomas, who, like you said, played 32 minutes last game, in Troy Brown, who last season averaged 0.8 fantasy points per minute and should probably play around 28 minutes tonight. Rui Hachimura, his minutes are kind of all over the place, but more often than not, I'm expecting 28 to 30 from him. He's reasonably productive as well, but I think that Beal's the number one guy for me. And then I would say Thomas and Brown are probably the two that I get to the most after him just because of their price points.
I like it. So I think Isaiah Thomas is interesting because if he's balling out, he'll get a lot more run over Smith. So I kind of like that. Another guy lurking in here is Thomas Bryant. He's been pretty good this year, 19.5% usage. He actually gets more assists than you might think for a center, and he's a rebound monster at averaging 30 minutes. He's 6.1K on DraftKings, 6,800 on FanDuel. Does that convince you to lock this guy in?
I think he's comparable as far as value goes to Isaiah and Rui and Brown for me. The one thing that makes him stand out a little bit more for me on DraftKings is that he's a power forward. So he doesn't cost you, Towns or Drummond or one of the other cheaper centers.
Yeah, I think that center is always tough because you only get one. So it's a little bit tougher as far as opportunity cost, but he's standing out for me. In the chat, we had Albut call his shot, Davis Burton. So are there any other guys on this team that you might be taking some shots on?
Not really. Bertans has had some really big games lately, and the Wizards do need his shooting. But I actually think his role is a little bit more in doubt now as the Wizards get healthier, because like last game you saw Troy Brown close over him. He got some extra run because Rui picked up 2 fouls in the first few minutes of the game, so he subbed in. But whereas earlier in the season you could pretty much count on getting 28 to 30 minutes from him because he was closing over Isaac Bonga, now you don't need him to close because Troy Brown is a capable offensive player as well. So I think that in games where there's not foul trouble, you're more likely to see like 24 to 26 than 28 to 30.
Yeah, so Albut, I hate to break it to you, but maybe Bertans, he might be a contrarian play tonight, but can't really objectively look at that guy and say he's a smash play. So moving on here, I think we got the biggest game out of the way. As far as the rest of the slate, I'm kind of seeing not a ton of injuries that are super impacting the slate, kind of like we had yesterday where New Orleans was a huge value. Is that kind of your take that there aren't as many great value plays tonight?
Yeah, I think the value is pretty tough because the teams where you do have value, with the exception of Minnesota, the guys have been in that situation for a while, so salaries have adjusted. And then you also have a couple of games today that are just pretty slow-paced games too. I'd actually mentioned to Josh and Lofty earlier that today was a pretty good day to have slept in because there were a couple of games that were pretty easy to get through as far as research goes.
Nice. This one might be one of them. Detroit at Charlotte. Of course, Charlotte a younger team now, and they're playing pretty poorly. Maybe a little bit better than you might expect, but they're at the start of the season, they're projected to be one of the worst teams. Detroit's favored by 4. We have Blake Griffin back. Last game he played 24 minutes. Derrick Rose is also playing tonight. Last game he didn't. And that's kind of making it tough for me to get to any of the guys aside from Andre Drummond, who been playing huge minutes this year. And he's only 8,600 on FanDuel, more expensive on DraftKings. On FanDuel, more expensive at 10.3K. Is Drummond someone you're going to be going to tonight?
Yeah, especially at that DraftKings price point. FanDuel's been kind of slower to lower his salary with Blake Griffin being back, but DraftKings did it proactively, and I still don't expect 36 minutes out of Blake. He played 24 last game. I have him at 28 tonight. So I still think there's going to be plenty of times where Drummond's on the floor without him. And even when you look at his numbers last year alongside Blake, it's not like he wasn't productive. He still averaged 1.25 fantasy points per minute. It's just that he wasn't as productive as this year. But you're still going to get big minutes out of him. And it's a favorable matchup against the Hornets, too. Not a very imposing front court. They've allowed the 8th most putback points per game this season. Drummond leads the entire NBA in putback points per game with 4.5. So it's a favorable matchup for him, even if you account for the fact that he's going to be playing alongside Blake Griffin more than he has for most of the season.
All right. Well, hopefully Cody Zeller doesn't catch wind of this shade you're throwing at the Hornets here. Yeah, I think that Drummond shouldn't get as many rebounds with Blake on the court. He won't get as many assists, but his price is way down. So it's already worked into the price here. I think he's a nice play. Blake Griffin, probably the candidate to be the Paul George of tonight, playing like 20 minutes and getting 50. But not a core play for me. Is he landing on any of your rosters?
I have him as a pretty neutral play. Like 7,100 on DraftKings is okay. I think he's up around 8K on FanDuel. He should be productive when he's on the floor. It's just that it's really tough to roster someone that you don't expect to play a ton of minutes, especially on a slate like this where there's not great value, but there is a pretty good like mid-range and upper mid-range where there are just a lot of guys at that price point that I like more than Blake.
Yeah, I mean, if you're comparing them to guys who aren't limited, it's not even going to be close. So,
right.
On the other side, Charlotte was kind of the team 2 nights ago when Terry Rozier went out and had a huge game. The big news that game was that Devontae Graham started. Previously, Dwayne Bacon had been starting. We got word that he's going to be starting today again. So it's kind of interesting because Rozier and Graham, they're both high assist guys. So playing together, you might have reduced production from both of them. But are these the 2 guys you're looking at tonight as far as Hornets?
Yeah, them plus Zeller. Terry Rozier obviously had a monster game last time out, but going forward, his salary has increased on DraftKings $1,000 since that game. He shot like 7 for 12 from 3 that game. He just had a huge game. You should still see like 36 minutes, but playing more minutes alongside Devontae Graham now, I think it's worth pointing out that Rozier is playing off ball, which he said he's a lot more comfortable with, but it also really knocks his assist percentage down. Playing alongside Graham this year, he has a 16.7% assist percentage. So their minutes will be staggered and you'll still get some point guard minutes from Rozier, but it's going to be a little bit less than you were getting when Graham was coming off the bench. So where they're similarly priced, I have Graham projected a little bit ahead of Rozier. I think that they're both decent options still. They're both productive players. They both have, the highest usage rates on the team by a wide margin. But I think that Graham probably digs into Rozier's production a little more than Rozier digs into Graham's.
With that in mind, I'm kind of looking at Graham tonight as a pretty good play because he had the off game last game, but still played the big minutes. Rozier, people are box score watching. He'll be the more popular player. And Graham, do you agree with this? Maybe he'll get a couple more minutes a game now that he's starting?
Yeah, I think that before you were seeing 30 to 32 minutes. Now I think it's more likely you see 34 to 36.
Nice. So that'll be some pretty nice production from a guy that maybe some casual fans they haven't really caught wind of yet. So of course we got all this great free content in front of the paywall on YouTube. Also a lot of articles written by all the analysts at Awesemo.com. If you want to take a shot at upping your game, we got the projections, the ownership, the boom bust tool behind the paywall, as well as the deep dive written by you and Laffy. these are all kind of like weapons that you can use in your arsenal to bring your game to the next level. Everyone kind of like uses them their own way. So it's really interesting to see how people like devise their strategy. But I think these are really useful tools to be more successful in the leagues you play. So you can use the code Deeper Dive to get 50% off your first week or month at Osmo.com. How'd I do here?
Good.
All right. I'm still trying to learn the tricks of the trade here. Laffy, of course, is the host usually. Next game, I'm not really seeing as much in this game. We got Spurs at Orlando. It's the lowest over under the night at 210, and fully healthy teams as far as I'm aware.
We just got some news.
Oh, we did.
Jonathan Isaac ruled out.
Man, that's timely news.
Also, actually, Dwayne Bacon ruled out for the Hornets, which I don't think really changes anything. You just give more minutes to Cody Martin, but we just got that too.
Awesome. And maybe MKG in garbage time.
Is he even on the team?
He is. Yeah, he's on the bench every night, getting his 13 million. Yep. Anyway, so that gives this game a little bit more excitement with Isaac out because he's been kind of absorbing a ton of minutes. So with Isaac out, the potential starters would maybe be
Aminu starting.
Oh, Aminu is starting.
Yep.
Okay, man. I need to get up to date on all this information here. So how are you breaking this game down?
Yeah, so I think it's obviously really important news. So last game you saw Aminu not even in the rotation. He played 1 minute, and they were staggering Jonathan Isaac and Aaron Gordon, which was getting Gordon more minutes at the 4. So now, obviously with Aminu starting, Gordon, I think, will still stagger with Aminu and be the backup power forward, which means slightly more production for Gordon. Last year, he averaged 1.02 DraftKings points per minute playing power forward as opposed to about 0.95 when he's not. A little bit more rebounding, a little bit more assist opportunities, a little bit higher usage. So it's a slight bump for Gordon, who also gets a path to more minutes. For a lot of the season, we'd been seeing 30, 32 minutes from Gordon because Aminu and Isaac were soaking up all of the minutes at the 4. So now it's more 34 to 36 minutes for Gordon, which is really nice. Aminu is 3,200 on DraftKings, so I think he easily becomes one of the top value plays. Not that there's even a ton of confidence in him individually, just that he's really, really cheap, and most of the other value is just as bad, if not worse. So he'll be a core guy for me. So I think Aminu and Gordon are the two biggest beneficiaries. I think that you probably see Wes Iwundu crack the rotation and soak up some minutes. So beyond them, I don't think there's a huge benefit to anyone. But I do think that also Terrence Ross, who had been kind of stuck at 20 to 22 minutes a lot of games this year, I think he probably gets in that 26, 27-minute range.
Nice. So that would make Ross kind of an interesting GPP play where maybe everyone's going to Aminu.
Yeah, exactly.
Another guy I'm looking at here is Evan Fournier because, of course, he's been losing minutes to Ross. So do you think that maybe there's more lineups where we see both of them together, maybe more minutes for Fournier?
Yeah, I think so because it'll be it's easy to play Fournier and Ross together, and you could just run a lineup that has one of the point guards, Fournier, Ross, and then Gordon and Vooch.
I like it. So I have breaking this down. I noticed the game Wes Iwundu was in the rotation last time. He only played first half minutes. He wasn't in the rotation in the second half. So I think we'll see some increased minutes for all the regular guys here. So it'll be pretty good. On San Antonio side, I'm not seeing a whole lot. Marcus Aldridge's rebounding has been way down this year because Trey Lyles is getting huge rebounds, but he doesn't get any shots. So he's kind of tough to land on. Same time, DeJounte Murray has been really detracting from DeRozan's production as far as maybe not that much, but are you landing on anyone here as a core play?
I think this is the least appealing team on the slate. Looking at DraftKings pricing, the only guy that I really have interest in at all is DeJounte Murray. But the issue you run into is that he's probably going to play 24 minutes. And while he's a very good point per minute guy, it's a tough matchup. It's a slow Orlando team. He's not going to play a ton of minutes. Like if I'm looking for a pivot in that price range to a popular Jeff Teague, I would much rather go to like Derrick Rose than Murray, just because I think that Rose's matchup is more appealing.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I mean, that 24-minute kind of average, where it's not even like 26 one game and 22 another. I guess it is, but that's about as far as it goes. Like it seems like he hasn't played more than like 28 minutes this year.
Yeah, I think 26 might be as high, and it was that game like 3 games ago, where it looked like maybe they were going to start like unleashing him, but then since then he's played like 21 and 19. So
yeah, that's going to be not that appealing for 8-game slate, maybe on a shorter slate. So moving on here, this next game should be a lot more interesting. A lot of injuries on these teams, but Indianapolis at Houston. Houston's favored by only 6 points, which is interesting. 225 over or under. So Eric Gordon, Clint Capella, and Daniel House are all out for Houston. So we have Tyson Chandler joining the starting lineup, and Austin Rivers playing big minutes off the bench. So looking at their roster, though, it's like no one takes any shots aside from Westbrook and Harden. So it has to be a benefit for those guys, right?
yeah, I think so. I think Capella is a really big benefit for Westbrook, or Capella being out, that is. Without Capella on the floor this year, Westbrook has a 15.1% rebounding percentage. Alongside him, it's 10.6%. And if you just go back and look at Westbrook's game logs, you can pretty clearly see which games Capella was playing 36 to 40 minutes and which games Capella was playing 28 to 30. Westbrook's rebounding numbers recently have just fallen off of a cliff as Capella started playing more minutes. So I think that you see better rebounding numbers for Westbrook as his price tag's falling too. He's down to 9,500 on FanDuel, 8,400 on DraftKings. It's not an appealing matchup as far as Indiana being a good defensive team and Indiana being one of the slower teams in the league. But I think that when you're talking about someone in Westbrook that already has a usage rate up around 30%, has a 34% assist percentage, getting those extra rebounds without Capella there pushes him into being one of the core plays on the slate for me.
It's a great point. I think that could have easily gotten overlooked, that Westbrook should get a lot more rebounds, and that's been kind of the area where he's lost a lot of his production this year. So I like that call. I think a lot of people are probably going to be looking at Austin Rivers as a value play. He'd definitely be my Corey Joseph value play of the night if I gave one. So is there any chance you're going to land on Rivers?
Probably not. The thing here, the reason I don't really like the secondary options on Houston all that much, well, for one, like you said, the only people on this team that shoot are Harden and Westbrook, and at least one of them is on the floor for every minute of the game, except for when Westbrook picks up 4 fouls in the first quarter like he did last game. So it's not like getting more minutes becomes getting 15 shots or something for someone like Rivers or McLemore. But on top of that, it's not a fast-paced Indiana team. So like it's a pace down spot for Houston. It's not like the Minnesota-Washington game where you're like, oh, well, there's just going to be a million possessions in this game. So even if you're not getting a high percentage of the shots, you're still going to get a good number of shots. It's not really the case for these guys. So I don't really have a whole lot of interest in Rivers or McLemore. PJ Tucker, I think, is kind of appealing because he should get a few extra minutes at center, which means more rebounding opportunities. But he's, a 10% usage guy for the season, and he doesn't really do a whole lot of anything. So I don't really think he's like a core player or anything either.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at my notes here, and if you add up all the rebounding percentages of everyone left, it's well below average. So I think that we will see a lot more rebounds from guys like Westbrook, Tucker, and of course Chandler is going to be a good rebounder when he's on the court. But I'm only projecting him to play about 20 minutes. So are you on Chandler at all?
Not really. I have him at 24 minutes, but last year with the Lakers, he only averaged 0.75 fantasy points per minute. If I put in his rates from the Lakers, I looked at his rates with LeBron on the floor for the Lakers last year, because obviously that's about as comparable as you can get to having Harden and Westbrook. He had a 6.7% usage rate, 15.5% rebounding percentage, but no assists either. So, kind of just out there grabbing occasional rebounds. He'll get a couple blocks maybe, but he's also not minimum priced, and he is at a center position that has, a couple of the better plays on the slate. So I don't anticipate getting a whole lot.
Yeah, that'd be pretty tough to go with Chandler over some of the other centers that we've mentioned even so far. I did forget one thing here. So we need to up this light count. So I know like some of the other guys are nicer on our audience here, but I like to be a little bit heavy-handed. So I mean, if you don't click this like button, I didn't plan for this at all, but if you don't click the like button, then someone will come in your dreams and seriously injure you. And it will happen in real life. So make sure to click that like button. Thank you guys. Anyway, so what I'm kind of gathering from this game is that Tucker and Westbrook are really the plays. Harden, his price is like insane. It's like over 12K on both sites. Why did he get that price bump? Do you have any idea?
The only thing I can guess at is that the Rockets had said that Westbrook's most likely going to sit either tonight or tomorrow night. So the sites may have preemptively just jacked Harden's price through the roof.
Yeah, good on them. That would have been lame if he sat and then Harden was underpriced. So I like that. But because of that, not a core play, I don't think, for me. How about you?
No, you would need. I mean, it's going to be easier to get to him now because of guys like Aminu and with Wiggins being out. Like when I wrote the deep dive earlier, I basically said that he was my highest projected guy on the slate, but I had no idea how the hell to get there. So it's a little easier now, but it's still not like there's not opportunity cost on top of the really expensive price tag. You know, when you talk about upside and what else you can get in your lineup, and Harden's like $4,000 more than Bradley Beal, for example, it's still really, really difficult.
Yeah, it's too much opportunity cost. I mean, if you love some of the really cheap guys on Minnesota, maybe you can fit them in. But I'm not really landing there. There's better other options. Next game, Philadelphia at Oklahoma City. Philadelphia has Embiid coming back, so if you were on Simmons last game and Harris, maybe they're not as exciting now. I'm not really seeing anyone standing out because they're all healthy. But what about you? Do you think you might have some Embiid tonight?
I think Embiid's fine. Like I think that I don't like him quite as much as I don't like him nearly as much as I like Towns. At the price, I prefer Drummond by a little bit because he's a little bit cheaper. But I think that Embiid's still a really good option. If he's not going to get much ownership, which I don't have the ownership projections in front of me, but he's someone where as a tournament pivot, if he's going to be really low owned, obviously you can get there. But the reason that I don't like him as much as the other guys is that his minutes are just more unpredictable. You know, some games he'll play 35, 36, but we've also seen plenty of games where he's playing 30 to 32. There's been Philly beat writers, you know, kind of talking about his conditioning and him being gassed and not being able to get up to those 36 minutes. Whereas you know that Drummond is playing 35 or 36 as long as there's not foul trouble. You know, Towns is doing that. And then Towns is also getting increased usage without Wiggins in a better matchup. So from a projection standpoint and just like a raw upside standpoint, I think that Embiid falls behind those guys for me.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, his season average has only been 29 minutes a game. Last year, he averaged 33. So that kind of shows that if he's back to his last season form, then he'd be a pretty good play. But if you're going off some sort of mix of that 29 number and the 33, not as exciting tonight.
Yeah. Worth pointing out, he did get ejected from one game, though.
Oh, he did. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that Towns game, right? Okay, I didn't even think of that. That's pretty important. On the other side, I think a little bit more exciting options here, which is surprising. Oklahoma City, Terrence Ferguson is back. I assume he'll be starting. Hamidou Diallo started last game. I think he might be questionable or probable here. So a little bit of uncertainty, but I'm really honing in on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I know he was a favorite of yours to start the season. So how are you feeling about him now?
Yeah, I still really like this price point. He's very scoring dependent, but he's one of the usage leaders on the team. It's not like it's a great matchup against Philly. They're a good defense, especially with Embiid on the floor. And Gilgeous-Alexander doesn't contribute a lot in the way of rebounds or assists. But when the price tag's just plummeting, I mean, he was up around 8K on DraftKings within the last week. Now he's at 5,900. I think that's a really, really clear value option because you have the upside of him, you know, running into a couple extra rebounds or assists or whatever and going for 20 plus real points. Even as his usage rate has dropped a bit as the season's gone on, he's still taken, you know, 14 plus shots in 7 of 11 games this year. So I think that the salary is just cheaper than his upside in this offense.
Yeah, I like it. I agree. I mean, 5,900 seems way too low for him. Not a great matchup versus Philadelphia, but that price point's pretty appealing. On FanDuel at 7,300, not as nice as far as lineup construction today. Chris Paul also, man, I was so excited about him to start the season because I'm like, all right, he was having an off year because of Harden. Now without Harden, he'll be one of the best fantasy players in the league. But boy, was I wrong. Only 22% usage. Assists are down even on this new team. Not really like as good in any category as we're used to. So what do you make of Paul?
Yeah, I think that his salary is still reasonable. Like he's 6,300 on DraftKings, but you just kind of have to keep your expectations in check because he's going to get less usage than Gilgeous-Alexander. Even Dennis Schroeder has a higher usage rate than Paul, and you're seeing pretty healthy minutes for all three of those guys. Gilgeous-Alexander normally playing 36, Paul playing around 32, and Schroeder playing around 30 in competitive games. We're even seeing them close alongside each other. So Paul is taking a back seat. Schroeder's got the higher assist percentage. Paul has the higher assist percentage, but Schroeder's like right behind them. Schroeder has the higher usage rate. Gilgeous-Alexander has the highest usage rate. So it's just a little bit less stability from Paul than we're used to in the past. He still has upside at this price point. He has gotten better from a fantasy standpoint as the year has gone on. He's averaging over a fantasy point per minute, which is nice. It's just that it's not the like plug and play Chris Paul from a couple years ago.
Yeah, I'm really surprised by this price point, but I have to say it's pretty appealing, especially on FanDuel at 6,900. So I think I could take some shots on him. His production over the last few games has been a little bit better. Steven Adams is another guy that I had high expectations as far as rebounding without Westbrook, and that's come true, but the minutes haven't really been there. So maybe do you think they might need him more against Embiid? Or I mean, Noel is pretty good backup. So are you projecting more like 26 minutes?
I have him at 28, just because he's in competitive games where he's not in foul trouble or getting hurt. He's generally been in line to play 28 minutes. I can't go any higher than that just because we haven't seen it at all. But I would imagine that he's out there as much as he possibly can be against Embiid. They'll need him. They need his size. They need him defensively. So I have him at 28 minutes. I have him as a good value in terms of just his production relative to his price. The issue you run into again is the opportunity cost. When on FanDuel it means you don't have Towns or Drummond. On DraftKings it means you don't have at least one of them. So that makes it pretty tough.
Yeah, that DraftKings price 4,900 is pretty good, but compared to some of these other guys, not really a standout option. All right, my bad, guys. I caused an uproar in the chat here by skipping over the Indiana Pacers. So actually, looking at their side versus Houston, they're looking pretty good. I have to say, like Malcolm Brogdon seems to be continually underpriced across the industry for his production this year. Just way better usage and assists and rebounding. Do you think that versus some Westbrook and Harden, he's in a pretty good spot?
Yeah, he's one of my favorite plays. His price tag's coming down, but his rates are still really good. Alongside Sabonis, without Turner on the floor this year, he has a 28.2% usage rate. His assist percentage is up at about 34%. His minutes have been down a little bit the last few games, but I'm not too concerned about that. He played 32, 29, and then 25 minutes. The 32 and 29, they were both competitive games, but he kind of lost playing time to TJ McConnell, who was playing really well off the bench, and just had a couple of shortened rotations that I don't think will be the norm. The 25-minute game was a blowout. So he's still playing really well on a per-minute basis. It's a huge, huge face-off spot for Indiana against the second fastest team in the league. And I think his price tag is basically priced to like his floor.
Yeah, I like it. I think that nice matchup, and some of the guys are out on the team, so even more usage than he might otherwise get. Of course, the other guy that's really been winning people money is Domantas Sabonis. With Miles Turner out, he's been the center and been getting huge rebounding numbers. Over 30% rebounding rate over the past 5 games, 25% usage nearly. And I think that he may be one of these guys that has a high opportunity cost for fading. But do you think he's a core play tonight?
I'm not sure about core play because there's a lot of value at the position that I like relative to other positions at least. But I think he is a really, really good play. Like he's not going to play all his minutes at center anymore because you have Goga back. But they've said that they're going to be cautious with Goga's minutes, so you should still get some time at the 5 for Sabonis. And overall this year, with Brogdon on and Turner off, 20+% in usage, rebounds, and assists. He should play 36+ minutes. Really should benefit from the pace-up spot because you're going to get a lot of rebounding opportunities, but he also can take advantage of the extra possessions as far as assists and scoring goes. Tyson Chandler is not the most mobile guy at his age, so Sabonis should be able to take advantage of that too. I do think Sabonis is a really good option. Him and Brogdon are both big pieces of my night.
Nice. I kind of like him too. Some other guys that are worth mentioning: T.J. Warren, Doug McDermott, both playing decent minutes. Not really core plays for me. Jakar Sampson, I think, will get hit with Goga back. And Goga himself, people are asking about. I'm not really thinking he plays enough minutes to be a great play. Finally, Aaron Holiday. Do you think Aaron Holiday will get the start today?
Yeah, I expect him to get the start. I think that he's more expensive than I would like. He's $5K on DraftKings.
Yeah, when did that happen, man? All right.
How many minutes do you have Goga at?
I just put him for 16 because, I mean, it doesn't really matter. He'll have to play like 24 minutes to be a good play.
That's why I asked, because my guess was 24.
Really? I mean,
so my thing is, they said that they're going to be cautious with his minutes, but I haven't seen anything beyond that. But the thing from the tweet that made me think that he's going to get a decent amount of minutes is, well, for one, it was a concussion. It's not like it was a lower body injury. It's mostly a conditioning thing. But the tweet from Scott Agnes, who's one of the writers for the Pacers, said that TJ Leaf will still be the backup center, which I don't know if it was intended or not, but it implies that Goga will be starting. So I don't know. Like, I guess he becomes less useful now anyway, since we've gotten more value. But before we got the Wiggins news and the Isaac news, he was kind of a guy that I was willing to take a chance on.
Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable. If we got news that he's starting, I think maybe worth taking some shots on there. Otherwise, I'll probably fade him.
Specifically on DraftKings too. He's a center on FanDuel, and there's just no way.
That's a good point. Also, this could be a guy maybe you late swap onto on DraftKings. So
yeah, that's a good point.
Next game, of course, the one that we're all looking for, this Mike Conley versus Jae Crowder matchup, Utah and Memphis. Memphis has actually been decent for fantasy with Jaren Jackson Jr. and J Val having some big nights. Of course, last game, Ja Morant has the most minutes and production he has this season. But Utah, that's got to be one of the toughest matchups in the league right now. Is there any chance you're going to land on these Memphis guys?
Not with any regularity. Like, Ja Morant is cheap for his upside, but it's a terrible matchup. And now you have guys like Teague that are cheaper. You have, plenty of expensive guards to go to as well. So I don't really like a whole lot or anything from Memphis.
Yeah, same. I think, only average at best plays here on FanDuel. It's even worse than DraftKings. On the other side, Utah has a great matchup versus Memphis here. But pretty healthy team. Mike Conley, his assist numbers haven't been great with Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell has been kind of getting the usage we're accustomed to, so I have him as maybe being the better play of the two of them, but do you lean one way between those two?
Yeah, Mitchell's my favorite play in this game. He's got a 30% usage rate this year. His assist rate is actually almost identical to Conley's, and you're seeing their minutes staggered, which is nice. So, and Mitchell's playing a little bit more minutes. So I think that in a competitive game, you probably get like around 34 minutes from Conley, around 36 from Mitchell, if not more. So I think that Mitchell at his salary stands out more than anyone else.
Yeah, I agree. He's a nice play. Royce O'Neal, man, 70% true shot percentage this year. He's been balling on that 8% of shots he takes. He might be a value play on FanDuel, but not really serious about that. And finally, Dante Exum, available to play today. Do you think he might make his season debut?
I didn't give him any minutes. I don't really know what to do with him because Moutier's back too. And I would be surprised if Moutier and Exum play. But
yeah,
I don't think it affects DFS at least.
Right, yeah. I'm just more curious than anything. Of course, two maybe comeback stories in the works here. Next game, we got Boston at Golden State. Boston's a 7-point favorite. Of course, Golden State, all the guys are out, but Draymond Green recently came back. He's 5,300 on DraftKings tonight. So that has me more than a little bit interested. I think he's one of the chalkier players of the night too. Do you think he's worth the risk?
Yeah, I think that as much as I hate rostering Draymond Green, that's a price point I'm willing to get there. He played 28 minutes in the blowout last game. I have him projected for 32 tonight. He's played 3 games so far with Russell back and with Curry out. 14.9% usage rate, and you don't expect much usage anyway, but 26.5% assist percentage, which is where you would expect Green to get a bump from Curry being out. So that's pretty appealing, and it's mostly just a price point that's really nice.
Yeah. I have pretty high expectations for Draymond Green without Curry. He's a guy that gets a lot of assists, so I think that maybe he could be able to sneaky, except for this price point, which is going to make everyone land on him. D'Angelo Russell, he's been getting 36% usage over the past few games, 37% assist rate. These are kind of even better than the numbers we saw in Brooklyn last year. On DraftKings, he's 8K, but FanDuel is 9K, so I like him a lot more on DraftKings. Not sending out a ton, though. Do you think he'll be heavily owned by you tonight?
Yeah, I think so, just because of the rates. It's not a good matchup against Boston. They're not a fast team, and they're a good defensive team. But when you have someone out there that is just contributing to every single basket scored by his team and is going to play 34-plus minutes, assuming that the game's competitive, it's really tough not to like him when he's not priced up for those rates. I think that Russell Westbrook at a very, very similar price point is probably a little bit safer just because that game's more appealing. But I think that Russell still has, monster upside just because of how involved he is in the offense.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it. He got 75 points or something crazy a week ago. I didn't have him that night, and I'm not going to let that happen again. Of course, you can't have everyone, so I might eat my words there. Willie Cauley-Stein, maybe the other play on this team. He's been getting about 24 minutes, but 4,700 on DraftKings is reasonable, but not sending out a ton. Do you think he's an interesting contrarian play?
Yeah, he's okay. It's just that he's a center. If he had power forward eligibility, I'd be really interested because I have him projected for mid 20s in points at 4,700, but it's just really tough when it costs you one of the higher upside guys on the slate.
Yeah, tough position there on Boston. So of course Hayward is out. Everyone else is back though. Cantor, Robert Williams, Daniel Theis all playing tonight. So that makes me kind of interested in none of those guys. Are you gonna maybe take a shot on Cantor, or do you think they all play tonight?
I think they all play. I went ahead and gave Cantor 24 minutes again. I don't know if that's the case or not. I gave him 24. I gave Theis 16. I gave the remaining 8 at center to Robert Williams. That being the case, Cantor projects very similarly to Willie Cauley-Stein on the other side of this game, but it's the same kind of thing where you need raw points at this position, I think, more than you need value tonight with the way the slate is broken down. So I don't anticipate really paying down at center all that much.
Yeah, for sure. So maybe a nice slate play with Cantor. Walker, Kimbrough Walker seems like maybe he's interesting at this 8,200 price point on DraftKings, but he's really the only guy. Maybe some Tatum mixed in that I might land on. Do you think Hayward being out kind of elevates these guys enough to make them in play?
Yeah, especially Tatum. I absolutely love Tatum tonight. He's been having his minutes staggered with Kimbrough Walker, so you're getting sometimes without Kimbrough on the floor, and then obviously they're starting alongside each other and closing alongside each other. But if you look at Tatum's numbers with and without Kimbrough on the floor this year and without Hayward, if you kind of just map it out based on the percentage of minutes that you expect him to play with and without Kemba. I have him projected for a 29% usage rate tonight. He's over the 2 games Hayward's been out. He's taken 38 shots. He's only made 10 of them, so his price tag hasn't elevated for that yet. But he's playing 35, 36 minutes. Golden State's the worst defensive team in the league. Draymond being back should help a little bit, but still only so much you can do when you're that bad defensively. And he's just, so involved in this offense and playing so many minutes that I plan on getting to a ton of Tatum. I think Walker and Brown and Smart are all reasonable options too, but Tatum's just the one that really stands out.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in his ownership here. So let me pull up the ownership projections. We have him at 7% tonight. So a little bit contrarian. Kimbrough Walker is at 9%. I think my general feeling about this game is that, the matchup's good, but these guys, there's still a lot of mass to feed in this team, and the salaries kind of do reflect their performance this year so far pretty well. On the other side, we did Golden State already. So Sacramento at LA. We actually had a question from the chat here. Josh, this one's for you if you're listening here. This guy, Matthew, he asked if you're all about Corey Joseph tonight.
No Corey Joseph for me tonight.
Oh, man, that hurts to hear because I'm about to fully endorse Corey Joseph. But first, we'll get Ab's take. Sacramento, LA. LA has been one of the better defensive teams in the league, I guess, because Sacramento is only projected for 102 points, one of the lowest on the slate. Pretty slow-paced game. Corey Joseph, he's the guy that's getting big minutes, played 37 last game. His price went up, but not a ton. He's in the mid 4Ks. Do you think you're going to give it another shot here?
I really hope not. I think he's okay in terms of like points per dollar. I have him projected for like 0.7 points per minute in 36 minutes. It's just that the Lakers don't play fast. They've actually been the most efficient defense in the league. And like for Corey Joseph to actually be a guy at 4,600 that you like need in your tournament lineup, the game probably needs to go to 3 overtimes and he needs to shoot like 85%. So it's just really, really tough for me to get there in this spot. Like if he was 3,500 again, sure, I'd go right back to him. But I would still rather, even at the more expensive price points, I would rather go to like Bogdan, who is the guy that actually is, running the offense and really involved in the offense with Fox out, over Joseph, who is just going to be a very low usage guy who you're hoping picks up some assists and maybe some steals or something.
All right, I have to take a stand here. I think he's a good play, but not a great one. Probably a good contrarian play tonight. And the reason why, so you mentioned Bogdan. He's mostly likely coming off the bench, but if there's going to be a lot of Joseph minutes without him. And Buddy Hield's assist percentage is 8%. Harrison Barnes is about the same. Rashawn Holmes is less than that. And Bielitsa's at 14%. So that means Joseph, he's the only guy that can dish the ball at all. He's at 20% on the year. His usage has been up this year from previous years at 17%. Probably a little bit lower in the starting lineup. But if you add all this up over 35 minutes, it justifies the salary. And just based on the general sentiment I'm hearing in the community about Corey Joseph, they're just super bitter about what happened the other night. But time and time again, we see the chalk fail one night, and then the next night everyone swaps off them, and then they hit. So Corey Joseph, maybe my Corey Joseph value play of the night here.
For what it's worth, he's played 64 minutes with Buddy Hield on the floor this year. He has a 9% usage rate.
Oof. Yikes. Well, that's certainly discouraging. Anyway, a lot of that was probably the last game. So
that's true.
On the other side, we got Anthony Davis back. LeBron is kind of priced with Davis being out in the mid 10Ks on DraftKings and 11.6 on FanDuel. The other news is Avery Bradley is out. I'm kind of anticipating that we might see some KCP starting, but I'm not completely sure. We probably won't know for sure until lock, but what's your take on this starting lineup here?
Yeah, my guess is KCP fills in. The one thing I'm sure about is I really couldn't care less who it is. I'm not rostering KCP, Quinn Cook, Alex Caruso. If any of these guys are starting, I don't care.
Yeah, fair enough. If Caruso was starting, I'd be pretty interested, but I think that the real play in this game is Anthony Davis. He's been averaging 35 minutes a game, 30% usage. He's actually been getting some assists and pretty good rebounding numbers. So 9.6K on DraftKings is pretty appealing. That's one of the lower prices we've seen over the years. So is that enough to get you interested in Davis?
Yeah, I think he's a really good option. So is LeBron, but the $9,600 price tag on Davis really stands out. Maybe his ownership is relatively low just because of the number of options in that price range, and because everyone likes to think that Anthony Davis gets hurt every single game, and we know he actually is hurt right now. So maybe that keeps it down a little bit. But yeah, I think it's a really good spot for Davis.
Yeah, I think that if people are a little bit worried about this locker room narrative that seems to go around, like he's pretty good play. Not really a ton else from this game. Just a lot of high prices, and Kuzma, he saw a price increase after his game, probably back to the bench here. So I did see one interesting question in chat here. So they were asking how many Minnesota Timberwolves are too many in a lineup in DFS. So I mean, you only got 8 guys on DraftKings, 9 on FanDuel and Yahoo. How many Timberwolves could you see yourself landing on in one lineup?
I'm really bad at this. It killed me last night with the Pelicans, but I think just thinking about like how the guys in Minnesota work, I think I'll probably cap it at 4 because of their pricing and because basically, like, I'm fine if I have all 3 of Towns, Teague, and Covington, because Teague and Covington are really cheap, and actually Towns is underpriced too. Like, those guys are going to be the core of what we get. And then if you just throw in one of that, like a Koji, Culver, Layman, Graham group that's really cheap too, I'm fine with that. So I definitely wouldn't want more than 4, I don't think.
Yeah, so I kind of, my advice is similar, where it's like if you have Fantasy Cruncher, maybe make a group. Say you don't want more than 2 of Graham, Culver, Okogie, Covington, and Layman, because whoever's going off that game will probably see the more minutes, and they kind of detract from each other. But Teague and Towns kind of unrelated to the performance of the rest of the team. So I think that given all the salaries are really low for the situation with Wiggins out, I'd probably lock in Covington. Teague is a core play. Towns is a core play for me. And then maybe sprinkle in the other guys. So do you think that's kind of like the choice of the night that's going to affect your results?
Yeah. I mean, I think, as you had said at the beginning, this is probably the most important game. And getting that right, obviously will matter. And I agree completely with the grouping there.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's a little tip there. Of course, you can get access to Fantasy Cruncher if you don't have it. That's also part of our 50% off your first week and month if you use the promo code Deeper Dive. And I gotta channel my Laffy here. Once you do sign up, make sure to stop by Slack and say hello. We'll be happy to have you as part of the community. And make sure to click the like button on your way out. And good luck, everybody, tonight.
Go ahead.
All right, we should be starting up now. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Awesemo.com Live Before Lock show, a slate that just got a lot more interesting over the last couple hours for our 8-gamer. I'm Chris Spags, joined as always on Fridays by my pal, the Chubster, Josh Engelman. How are you doing, Josh?
Sometimes I forget that the Chubster thing happened. Like, it's just I'm not ready for it, and then it hits, and I still laugh. I'm good. I'm feeling pretty good about this slate. I'm playing on DraftKings tonight for the first time this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the fam at DraftKings.
Yeah, I had to. I finally got my sheet set up for it today.
That's exciting. All right. Well, hey, we'll be talking some DraftKings throughout the show. We'll also be talking some FanDuel. And of course, we'll be talking about Fantasy Draft because Fantasy Draft is the official home of break-free DFS. And right now, you can go to fantasydraft.com, get on the Hooters main event. It's one of the best tournaments that they have in the industry right now. And of course, you are not paying any rake on those. So all of the contest entry fees are going right to the winners. So go to fantasydraft.com right now and use the promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, for your free 7-day trial and your entry into the world of break-free DFS. Josh, I know you love fantasy drafts, so tell the folks real fast. Why is it important to you to play on fantasy draft for your bankroll?
Because you save money, and anytime that you can save money, that's something that you should be doing in this industry. It's hard enough to beat the casino, so to speak. In this case, you don't really have to worry about it. There is no rake. If they take in $1,000 for a contest, $1,000 is going back out into the prize pool. That is invaluable if you are trying to scratch and claw your way to some profit. It will be greatly beneficial to you to be paying less out on a month-to-month basis. So highly recommend Fantasy Draft.
Yeah, so go to fantasydraft.com right now and use that promo code AWESEMO for your free 7-day trial and go check it out. And of course, also all the data that we're going to talk about over the course of this hour, the projections right from Awesemo himself, and the ownership projections are all available to you at awesemo.com/join. Go over there right now and use the promo code Live Before Lock to get half off your first month of Awesemo Plus, any of those monthly packages. We also have weekly packages on there that are $3.95 a week or as low as $3.95 a week. So go check that out right now at awesemo.com/join and choose a package that'll work for you. And Josh, I have a lot of packages that are going to work for me. I don't even know, this transition's terrible. My package that I'm loading up on today is a bunch of Timberwolves. And we talked about it briefly before coming on the air. The deeper dive guys literally just talking about it. Awesemo and Ship My Money were just on there talking about it. But how many Timberwolves would you say for all the fine folks out there who are going to be dying for value today, dying to load up on them? What would be your max number of Timberwolves to have in the lineup tonight? 4. Okay. And what lends you to the 4? Because I'm going to assume it's, like they just explained, and like the logical way it would be that more love for Teague, more love for Covington, more love for Towns. Teague and Towns in particular take a really big jump in terms of fantasy points per minute with no Wiggins on the court. But just one fourth guy who gets kind of a rotating one. Is that how you're approaching it?
Yeah, pretty much. So just looking at everything I have, there are basically 7 options. Towns, Teague, Covington, Okogie, Layman, Culver, Graham. You can, like, Town and Alex kind of said it best. Like, Town and Teague are sort of independent of all of this. And then you can just sort of rotate through 2 of these guys. One or 2 of them are probably going to take a big leap in minutes. 1 or 2 of them are probably going to just get less minutes. That's sort of why it's hard to go much more than that.
Yeah, no, it's fair. And look, I think too, the one thing that jumped out to me is that there is just so much usage that Wiggins leaves behind, almost a 30% usage rate. And he's been playing better without Teague on the floor, where he kind of has more room to, he had some assist upside recently, been rebounding better as well. There's a lot of things that he just leaves behind. I mean, I think that sort of, to me, makes some of these guys a little more appealing just to mix in and rotate. Like, I do think Jake Layman's just kind of a professional player, shoots really well when he gets given the opportunity, has a 45% shooting from the floor this year, 36% from deep. Totally fine for him going against a Washington team who really doesn't play defense. So you could see the upside there. Okogie, a little bit more of a rebounder, a little more of an assist guy, but still not as good of a scorer. So he has kind of his own usage. And Travion Graham, a warm body who exists and is generally made of flesh and blood and bones. So I think that's what he's got going for him. Any of these guys finding more interesting than the others, perhaps Jarrett Culver because he's a little more contrarian, or just any of them seem more, more useful to you in terms of how you're building lineups?
So I think that Okogie will be the guy that I get, ignoring Town and Teagues again. I guess that's the second time I said Teague plural. Towns. So Towns is, well, it's not plural. It ends in the S. So it's really hard then to say the S, but not the second. Anyway, it's not important. In that Covington, Okogie, Layman, Culver, Graham group, I think Okogie is going to be Okogie and Layman will be the guys that I get the most on FanDuel. This is just a guess. I'm crunching now. On DraftKings, Covington and Layman are probably the guys that'll get most there. I'm going to have all of these guys, I would imagine.
Okay, yeah. I agree. I think it makes sense to have mixes of these guys. Okogie jumped out a little bit more to me as the day's gone on. I feel like Graham is the flimsiest of them. Like I just don't know what he does particularly well. Like Layman can score. Actually, one of my tournament wins earlier this year is because Jake Layman going off when he was still a Trailblazer on a day where it was just a 3-game slate. So I have a soft spot for Jake Layman, but he's been scoring really well in his limited role, which kind of sucks as his price is up as a result. But I do think Layman's just a solid player who has that ability to kind of fill up the box score with just points. So yeah, I think he's interesting as the guy we have currently is the lowest owned out of the group. We have him under 10% projected ownership on DraftKings, and he projects really well, and it's hard to see him not getting some chances to shoot here against the Washington team who's playing with pace and not much defense.
We are on the same page there.
All right, let's talk about some of the other guys here. I guess let's talk more about Townsend Teague. To me, Townsend Teague's damn it.
Woo! That's what you get. That's what you get.
Some of the double S's there. I did Townsend Teagues.
That's what you get, man. That's what you get. Don't screw with me. Karma will get you. You'll make the same stupid speech mistakes that I do.
Should have never given you that lock of hair that you're using in a voodoo doll. But it'll pay off, I'm sure, at some point. But yeah, Towns and Teague, I think to me are the guys I would consider not lock plays. There is no such thing as a lock play in DFS. But in terms of how I'm building lineups today, they're the guys I have closest to a lock. Would you find them to be a tier above Covington when you're building lineups as well?
Yeah, I don't even think it's close. Especially Towns. Towns on, and that's just like, it's close from like a point per dollar standpoint, but the concentration of points that you can get for Towns at 10K on DK today is kind of crazy. 43% owned, so it's not like I'm saying anything that people don't already know. And then Teague at 5,300 is just criminally underpriced for this situation. I still like both guys on FanDuel, but I like them a little bit less so just given their price tags.
Yeah, I think that's a fair look at it. And I think Teague, to be clear to me, I think he's a stronger play than maybe even he's getting credit for. Obviously, the price is pretty nice for him because of him being ill and then not starting last game. It's still getting pretty good run. But I think he's like a 1.34 fantasy point per minute player without Wiggins on the court, sort of a limited sample size, but still enough to me where it makes sense too that he would see an uptick in assists, would see an uptick in scoring. So I think Teague to me has a pretty decent ceiling and a pretty decent floor. So he's one of the guys I have him pretty much. I have a little more Towns, but I'm pretty close in terms of the ownership where I feel pretty comfortable with Teague.
There we go.
Another value play people are questioning in general right now across the industry who did open up today because no Jonathan Isaac, Al-Farouq Aminu will be starting, and Samuel Snyder. Shout out Samuel Snyder for being the first super chat of the day. So, of course, if you super chat in, we will answer your questions on YouTube first and foremost because that is just the way that we try to prioritize things. Premium Slack and super chats are what get it first.
Yeah,
but he's asking how many. It is. It just makes us feel good. Makes us feel like I feel like I'm a bartender here. Like I'm Tom Cruise flipping bottles. Except I would drop the S out of all those bottles.
I was never a bartender. I don't think that I would ever be good at it.
You're personable, and I feel like I could see you like throwing a towel over your shoulder and be like, "Hey, good looking." What do you?
I think that I could be a good bartender. I'm not the type of person that like wants to hear how your day was.
No, I agree. Talking to people seems like it would be the worst part of it.
Yeah.
Like, there's sometimes you see a bar fly when you're out at a bar. I'm sure same for you, the places you go in the North Carolina area where you see a guy who's at the bar and he's just looking desperate to talk and he's like clearly a lonely dude. And I'm like, ooh, I would not want that guy to talk to you. Like, sure, any sort of busty wench coming up looking for a vodka soda. I'm on board with that completely. No. Anyway, so Samuel Snyder's asking we got away there. How many minutes for Al-Farouq Aminu do you have today?
Maybe 30, something in that neighborhood. It doesn't really matter a lot, enough that he's a value everywhere. 28 is what I have in here right now, and that's mostly just so it doesn't break everything that I do.
Yeah, the boss man, Alex, of course, the NBA projections do come from Alex Osmo Baker himself. He has Al-Farouq Aminu in 30 minutes in the last run that he did. So that would be the projection for him. Still not a great per minute player. I do think there's going to be a better boost for Evan Fournier, a better boost for Nikola Vucevic. I do think Fournier is actually pretty sneaky. He jumps up quite a bit in terms of usage and fantasy points per minute. And I think 50 minutes of court time without Isaac. So I was a little bit intrigued by him, but Aminu is certainly at a near minimum price industry-wide play. How much Aminu are you getting right now? You mentioned you don't want to get too much of him because it might break things, but a low usage guy moving into the starting lineup with a lot of usage seems like maybe not the best overall.
It's going to be a ton.
Really?
He has my highest ownership cap pre-crunch on DK, and he's third on FanDuel. So while I don't know for sure, I can only imagine it's like 50 plus.
The simulation. Josh is around drunks all day watching YouTube, Chad. It's a fair point. I think more of a marijuana abuse than alcohol abuse from what I could tell, but
yes,
we share that in common. We all share that in common.
Not much of a drinker anymore.
Now that they don't have cases of White Claw at my bodega, I'm lost. I don't want to go back to beer because I just know that's going to be even worse for me if I were drinking them at that clip I was drinking White Claws. That's how we end up selling body parts on for just literal kidneys, not even in any sort of fun way. So you're in on Aminu. I'm not in on Aminu. I think he's a little Corey Joseph-y to me, which I don't want to use as the go-to analogy. I don't want to hone in on Alex's corner there of making the Corey Joseph value plays of the day. But I think Aminu is just not a great per minute guy in this Orlando team. I don't know that Isaac leaves a lot behind. He's been a great fantasy player this year. Not a ton of usage. He's more of a good rebounder, good blocker. He actually has been getting some assists as well. So I don't know that I want to have a ton of Aminu. I get it at his price point, but it seems to me like just on the way tournaments have been going lately, you have to really be getting 40 fantasy points from each spot. And I don't see any world where Aminu touches 40. I find it hard to believe he gets to 30, honestly.
I have his target at like 30 and mid 30s, so he can get there. He'll be all right. I also have I have the expected target today for 390 on DraftKings, so I think he'll be fine.
I don't know. I feel like I have a random. So I have a target score thing on my sheet, and it's 0.0048 times the number plus 12.878. I have no clue where I got that number from. I feel like somebody smart must have said it at some point. What's your target score for him? I mean, well, roughly. You don't have to give the exact thing.
So I don't have it in the decimals because I just take out the salary, but same sort of process as what you just said. For today, DraftKings 5 and 17.5, and then FanDuel is 3.6 and close to 21.
Interesting. Okay, so it's all right. So it's similar. Yeah, I have no clue where this number came from. It's just been on my sheet for a while, and for that has Aminu's target score 28.2. So you can get there, I guess. I just every day it just seems like we have these guys. Like yesterday was Frank Jackson and Alex Len getting to 35, 40 fantasy points, and I just don't know that I see that for Aminu against the Spurs. But I could be wrong. I could definitely be wrong.
Yeah, I change them every day for every slate, so that is not something to be held day over day.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's go through some of the more top owned guys. One guy on DraftKings, which you are playing on today. I'm a little bit less owned on FanDuel because he's been priced up a bit, but Isaiah Thomas, been in the starting group, played over 30 minutes of that game, his return to Boston, did not smash value like I think some people would like to see, but it's hard to do that when Bradley Beal's shooting 30 times in a game, and they're sharing a lot of court time together. I don't mind Isaiah. The pace-up spot against Minnesota, I really don't mind him. But I didn't land on him because he's the same price as Teague. Is he somebody you're using as a Teague pivot or as an addition to Teague? How are you approaching Isaiah?
So earlier in the day, I would have said I'll probably have a little bit. The $5,300 price tag on DraftKings is appealing, but if he's 30% owned, I'm not even. I just know that I'm not going to be anywhere even remotely close to that. I would rather have everybody on Minnesota. I mean, I would rather have like a lot of guys in comparison to Isaiah Thomas. If I just look what's around him, ignoring positions for right now, I would much rather have Draymond. I would much rather have Teague. I'd rather have Hachimura. There's not much I like above that. Maybe Miles Bridges. But there's enough value on the slate today that I don't really need Teague. Good spot, or not Teague, Thomas. Good spot, but meh.
I mean, look, he certainly can have the upside here. The Minnesota's defense going to be worse without Wiggins, and they really haven't been that great of a defensive team overall and playing with a good amount of pace. So I don't hate the play for Isaiah, and I probably should have a little bit more. I actually do have another point guard who's higher priced, and I'm thinking about it now. I like Mike Conley going into the spot with Memphis, not just because of the revenge thing, but because of the pace up spot for him, the fact he's due for some positive regression on shooting, and the fact that Memphis can't defend. But logically, I really don't know why I have Conley and don't have Isaiah, because Isaiah's $900 cheaper on DK, and I would probably have them as having similar upside unless Conley goes absolutely nuts.
I have them as basically completely even plays. Shit, what did I just knock over? AirPods charger. Whoops. Yeah, like those are two guys that I expect to see in like 5 to 10% of my lineups. essentially randomly too. I don't really care whether or not I have. If I looked and saw that I had 0 of both, I'd be like, whatever, cool.
You think Mike Conley's going to show up for this game? I mean, this is just a total basketball point, not a data point by any stretch. But you think he shows up here? Or think he just has one of those Kemba games where he's like emotional and then just kind of sucks?
I just assume that he plays like normal.
Okay. I'm curious. I'm curious about this game because Mike Conley, like I think listening to the Chris Vernon on the Ringer NBA show a little bit more, the Memphis people really do take their basketball seriously, even when the team sucks. And it does seem like Conley has more of like a cultural figure thing, and Gasol to a lesser extent. Both Gasols. I think there is going to be something special in the air tonight for him, and I'm curious to see if he shows out because we know Conley has big upside. He just hasn't showed it yet in Utah.
Yeah, I'm not making any changes for it, so there's nothing I can really do.
Just like add another 1.5x on his projection. No big deal.
Pass.
Well, anyway, I'm playing some Mike Conley, guys, not for the revenge reasons. So I am playing Jae Crowder primarily for revenge reasons. I don't know. I don't think he was happy getting shipped to Utah, and he just went off against Dallas a couple weeks ago. So who knows? Who knows what Jae Crowder's thinking today? We'll find out. Let's see. So let's keep talking about some of the other guys. We're going to have some ownership. And actually, let's take some questions from Slack because we've been talking to Super Chat people, and Slack does have a few things in here which are worth hitting on. Who are your favorite FanDuel small forwards for GPPs, price considered? So FanDuel specific, who would you feel like would be that guy for don't Embiid my status?
Josh Okogie, Jake Layman are the two that I have the most.
Okay, there you go. So price considered, very price considered there.
Yeah.
Let's see. With Daniel Tice returning tonight from Stank2323, with Daniel Tice returning tonight, is a viable value GPP option? I think he means is Cancer. No, wait, is he a viable? Okay, so never mind. He's not asking about Cancer. He's asking about Tice himself. Is he a viable value GPP option with him playing?
No.
Yeah, I think too many minutes there. I wouldn't even play Cancer at this point. I don't think.
Daniel Tice or Tyson Chandler on DK from Jannar Kaslingam. That's a super chat.
That'd be Chandler for me.
$2 Canadian. I'm going to need Nolan to tell me how much that is in US dollars, but it would be Chandler for me, but it's neither for me.
I have a little bit of Chandler. I just think he's close enough in rebound rates to Capella. Minutes wise, I don't know what he gets, but like, I don't see how you play him. He's had a max of 16 minutes this year. I think projections have him at 20. I don't see how he doesn't get to 25-ish with Sabonis out there, and Goga is pretty big too. Like, you can't really go small. I guess you could try to deal with Tucker, but Tucker versus Sabonis, I don't think seems like a great matchup. I'd want Chandler out there for mid-20s.
I would absolutely rather have PJ Tucker guarding Domantas Sabonis than Tyson Chandler's old ass at this point.
I think that's unfair to Tyson Chandler. He's old, but he's still spry. He can get it done. He's got some Frank Gore in him.
What can't PJ Tucker do in this scenario?
Just the pure length of Sabonis. Sabonis is a long dude who does a good job rebounding. I think Chandler would do a better job mitigating the blood flow or the blood loss that would come from that. I like tuck wagon lineups with him at center, but I don't think the spot with Sabonis and Goga to a lesser extent. I just don't think it's a perfect one. I'd rather have a little more size with Chandler and have him get some elbows and Sabonis ribs and stuff like that.
I think I gave Chandler like 20 minutes. I just don't trust how long he can be out there. I could be wrong, but if Tyson Chandler is the guy that beats me today, I am okay being on that island.
No, that's fair. I think to me, the thing is I've seen him at 20 minutes pretty much everywhere. I do think Chandler is a guy who can rebound. He's had a 19% rebound rate this year. Capella's at 21%. So to me, I think that's, given how Capella's rebounded lately, given how the Rockets have shown an ability to keep the center in and let him rebound, if Chandler's not going to score a lot, he's not going to be doing the rim runs and putbacks that Capella gets. But if he gets a handful of those and also gets you 10 plus rebounds, I think at 4K, I don't mind that. There's just a big opportunity cost because I really love Towns and Drummond, and I don't see how, I'd rather have those guys than Chandler, obviously.
Westbrook in.
Okay, so that's surprising, but how does that affect things for you? Because his price is down, and theoretically he should gain a little bit by not having Capella in there hogging all the rebounds.
I've had him in all day, so it affects me not at all.
Okay.
I thought he was gonna play I have like mid-20s in exposure on both FanDuel and DraftKings as of right now.
Jesus. So basically just lock Harden in tomorrow then would be the thing, going against Minnesota.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, depends what his price is.
In that matchup, I would say he could be 13K, and he's not going to get boggled down by the Minnesota strip clubs, so that's going to be a plus. one would hope. Yeah, Westbrook, I'm surprised he's playing today, but reasonable price. I don't love the matchup versus Indiana. I mean, that's pretty decent little pace down. And Indiana defensively, maybe not as good as they were last year. I mean, almost definitely not as good as they were last year, but still pretty good. 101.2 defensive efficiency rating. I don't mind Westbrook at his price point, but I'd rather have Drummond, given that they're pretty comparably priced on DK.
I have 20% Russ on DK right now and 12.8% Drummond. I just finished my draft, my preliminary DraftKings crunch.
Okay, so all right. Anything else jumping out to you with the preliminary DraftKings crunch then that we should talk about? Because we usually talk about those at the end, but since you are doing DK today, we might as well.
Yeah, I'll just go through everybody that is popping up like crazy. I don't have Harden. I minimal Harden, no LeBron, 80% Towns, 40% D'Angelo Russell, 50% Thomas Bryant, 50% Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 42% Teague, which isn't really that crazy, 60% Robert Covington, 65% Aminu. No Tyson Chandler.
What was Gilgeous-Alexander?
54.
That's a lot of Gilgeous-Alexander.
I'm a big fan of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander today.
Okay. I'm not as big on Shai. I know Alex hasn't projected well. I don't know. I just feel like I can get his production from other places, but the price point makes sense. I don't know. I'd say he's kind of close to unplayable on FanDuel. Not unplayable, but substantially less playable.
I have substantially less Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on FanDuel.
Okay. All right, so we're in agreement there. What jumped out to you about Shai? Just the price, and because the Philly matchup's not great either.
Yeah, just 5,900. The minutes are there. I've got him projected even slightly higher than Alex as of right now. I took a look through some of his rates today, made sure that I gave him a full update so I could be confident in what I had in here, because it did stand out to me on my original run this morning, but I barely moved him off of the rates that I had, so I'm sticking with it. That's a place where I'm planting a flag for right now.
Yeah, okay, so I'm under on Shai. I did try to get some in there because Alex has projected well as one of the better value plays overall. I just kind of question the ceiling in this spot. Philly's been pretty good defensively. They have enough guys to throw at him. Shai not really doing enough for me in terms of assists and rebounds. He's there, but Chris Paul kind of getting stronger with his assist rate. Schroeder also taking a good amount of that off the table as well. I'm not crazy about Shai tonight. I'm also not crazy about Draymond, but I'm playing him because his price to me just seems stupid. Whereas Shai, I could see Shai dropping a little more and not being a thing that he just smashes value.
Yeah, the Draymond price, on DraftKings, it is what it is. That regardless of what you think of his abilities today, he's just priced like he's not Draymond Green.
Yeah. I mean, so let's move on to him then, because Draymond is another guy who opens up some salary and going to be one of the top 3 owned plays, it looks like, on DraftKings right now. Almost 40% projected ownership for him in our last run, which of course you get, by the way, if you go to osmo.com/join, use that promo code live before lock for half off your first month. I really don't know that I love the spot versus Boston. Boston, not a great rebounding team, which I guess is one thing that gives me some hope for Draymond having a decent floor. He hasn't been over 30 fantasy points in his last 4 games, so the price drop does make sense. But he is a guy who's had upwards of $7K, $8K salaries, so it just seems too cheap, and the hopes is they keep it close. So are you with the field on Draymond, or are you above it? Where are you shaking out relative to that?
I love that I just went on that mild Draymond soliloquy about just playing him and not thinking about it. I have half the field right now.
What's making you have half? Because I have more than the field, and I honestly don't love it because I really don't like Draymond that much.
I mean, I've got twice as much Robert Covington. I've got more than the field on Teague. I've got 3 times the field on Aminu. Eventually, you just run out of guys that you have to give to value if I've already got these guys in 60% of my lineups. Okay,
that is fair. And look, I think Draymond does fit that criteria that I was talking about earlier, where for me, I'm really trying to eyeball guys, and then also, obviously using the data and all that, but trying to figure out the guys who I think have 40 fantasy point upside. I think Draymond at his price point certainly does have it, not the most ideal matchup versus Boston, but he's going to be seeing minutes against Enes Kanter. I think that's going to help. And he's had more assist upside without Steph Curry, as you would think. So I'm willing to go there, but it does feel like one spot where I'm if this blows up, I'll be really bummed because the price was too good, but also he's just been kind of terrible.
Yeah. Look, he can only hurt you so much there. I know all the people are he doesn't try, so we can't play him ever. That narrative is just really disgusting. He does so much on the floor that his floor is relatively high. And if you get one of those days where he's like, I don't give a shit about the rest of these people, I'm just heaving today, it might go in. Like, there are days where he's probably just going to be like, you know what, I'm going to shoot 15 times today because I don't care about the rest of these people. Like, yeah, maybe he just wants to have some fun one day. I mean, ultimately, I think he's just way underpriced.
He's underpriced, and he's due for, I mean, look, for whatever Draymond is, his many failings. He's only shooting 41% from the floor, too, so that should take an uptick. And I don't know, like I feel like if he's going to get up for a game, maybe a home game versus Boston is one of those spots where those guys are going to be chippy. Those guys are going to be motivated. This is not a data point. This is just hope. But ultimately, it's the price point. Like, if he's at 5K, I don't see how you don't play a good amount of him, just knowing what we know of him and his upside he's shown. And on a projection basis with how he's played this year, too, I still have him at, a little bit over 30 fantasy points at that price point. Wouldn't be thrilled with that. But if the randomness kicks in and he gets 35, I think you're pretty happy.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's the reason to play Draymond. It sucks, but still one that's not, that does seem like a worthwhile one. Kind of similarly priced guy who's taken a bit of a drop, which logically doesn't make a ton of sense, but I think it's still worth hitting on. Thomas Bryant, 6,100 on DK. I think he's a little bit better priced, a little more logically priced on FanDuel, but he's basically had just one down game. I don't think he should be that cheap either. He grades out really well according to Osmo. Where are you shaking out with Thomas Bryant in this spot, which Minnesota's getting weaker by the second?
You obviously didn't hear that before when I was running through my exposure. I have 50% Thomas Bryant right now.
Oh, I missed that one. Okay, so you're heavily there, but I guess tell the people why he's
and he is one of. I have 43% Towns on FanDuel. I've got 39% Bryant. He's just been a beast. Let me pull it up just so I could have it in front of my face here. 1.15 FanDuel points per minute this season. That's 0.07 behind Bradley Beal. Like, that's negligible. I mean, obviously Beal plays 1,000 minutes a game, but I've got Bryant in for 32 minutes. I'm not particularly worried about Minnesota from a defensive standpoint in this one, so I think that he could just go back and forth pretty well and put up a solid stat line.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the rebounding is going to be there for him. Certainly, not that Wiggins is a big body or anything, but Wiggins takes a good amount of rebounds off the table. That's going to be less coming off as well that Bryant can grab. And, playing Towns certainly going to be a tough experience as well. But Bryant's also the best equipped to handle it, even though he's going to be chasing him around a little bit on the top of the key. So, yeah, I think it's a really nice spot for Bryant. And I'm willing to go there. And just him having one down game, I think is not enough reason to not be there. The field's only at 20%, so it does seem kind of low for Thomas Bryant.
Ben McLemore starting for Daniel House, and Hamidou Diallo out.
Do either of those do anything for you?
Diallo, no. Don't think that will really matter at all. Sorry, I'm just taking a look at it now. Yeah, I can't imagine that matters all that much. The Clippers just have this sea of like dudes, so it's not really changing anything for me on either end. And I kind of just assumed that Ben McLemore would have to play big minutes because they're just kind of out of people.
Yeah, I get it. McLemore to me just not a dude who's gonna really register much and can easily lose minutes to guys like Austin Rivers, as we saw the last 2 games. I don't want to go to McLemore. I don't think he's...
No, I'd rather go thrift shopping with and
and Alex made that same joke, and I was going to not make it because I know Alex...
Did he really?
Yeah. He made it or whatever the other day was when he was going to be potentially a chalk play.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I didn't hear that one.
I mean, it's still a great joke, Josh. Don't worry about it. Just because everybody did it 2 days ago doesn't mean it's not a great joke.
I didn't hear that. My bad.
No, it's okay. It's I know McLemore humor. There's really only so much you could do with McLemore. It's
true.
Really not, but it's going to immediately evoke that in your brain. But yeah, I'd rather just go to the value we talked about. I mean, I'd rather play Trevion Graham than McLemore and take that stab. I'd rather get a little more and go to go to Kogi, go to Covington, go to Layman, who we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
All right. Let's keep going through some of this ownership and see if there's anything else that's worth touching. We didn't really talk about Bradley Beal, but he's too cheap given what we just saw against Boston. Now he's in a better spot. I like Beal a lot, and I have a good amount of him. Where are you shaking out with Beal? He's going to be one of the top 10 owned guys. Probably it looks like top 7 owned.
Yeah, I'm neutral to the field on DraftKings on Beal, but on FanDuel, where because of the way that positions work and because of the way that value is set up, I actually have 50% Bradley Beal. There's very limited shooting guard value in comparison to just small forward being loaded and power forward being loaded now. So I'm on like a ton of Harden and Beal and Russell just because it's a lot easier to pay up at shooting guard on FanDuel today.
Okay. Yeah. Look, I think Beal's a really strong play today. I like the price point. I think the upside, we literally just saw it a couple of days ago in a much tougher matchup. So I think there's really not any reason to avoid Beal. Though, certainly not surprising when Bradley Beal often does, or not often does, but it does enough as chalk.
Yeah.
It can certainly just give you that 40 fantasy point day where you're like, well, I guess I can't be mad, but I'm not thrilled by this. Wouldn't shock me.
Yeah.
Stank2323 in the premium Slack is getting 2 shout outs today, but he's asking good questions. Any projected minutes for Blake Griffin? Last time he was in the mid-20s. Where are you shaking out with him minutes-wise today?
I gave him 26. I think he's just not in play at all for me.
Okay. We just talked about Beal, and Wiggy is asking Westbrook or Beal on DK, both pretty comparably priced. I have much more Beal. How would you shake out with that?
On DK?
Yeah.
I have slightly more Beal than Westbrook, but it's negligible. I have Beal projected for 0.9 of a point more. As far as I'm concerned, they're equals here.
Okay, that's fair. And Westbrook, again, going to get that little bit of extra rebounding oomph without Capella out there. The rebound rate does go up a bit, but I would just favor Beal. I think this game environment, even without Wiggins in there, this does feel like one of those games that could easily be 120 going down the stretch. And that's what I don't want to miss out on that because I don't think these two teams play defense really well and they play with a ton of pace. Our boy Rinpack asking, let's hear a Monk versus a Kogi take, both at the same price on Yahoo. I like Monk. I don't get why he's getting minutes all of a sudden. I've always liked Malik Monk, and I'm surprised that he's getting those minutes when we have
Bacon's out.
What was that?
Dwayne Bacon's out.
Oh, yeah. But still, he was in that game, the second to last game, and they just gave Monk his minutes when he was, I don't know if he was still healthy or not, but still better than Bacon is and should keep getting that run. But his price is up quite a bit on DK, maybe not so much on Yahoo. Who would you favor in the Monk versus a Kogi debate?
I assume it's a Kogi by a mile, but let's see. $12, -15. A Kogi, $12. It's not by a mile, but it's a Kogi.
Yeah, a Kogi seems safer. It just feels like Monk can lose those minutes at any time. And even, I don't know how he would, but I like Monk, I'm just not fully buying in yet because you still have Rozier, you still have Graham in there getting really big minutes and playing well. So I don't know that I'm into the Monk thing, but I like him as a player. I want to see him do well.
Okogie and Monk are two of the best value plays on Yahoo, but Okogie is a little bit ahead of him. That game just profiles better, and that's sort of what's carrying him out.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, playing Detroit, Detroit's not a great defensive team by any stretch, but I'm gonna slow things down a little bit compared to the Minnesota-Washington game, which should have a lot of run. And I definitely have more Okogie than Monk on DK, where Monk is 5K and Okogie's 4,700. So yeah, I would go Okogie, but don't feel great about it. Monk's certainly a little more contrarian, I would think. Let's see. Blake Griffin is starting. Okay, we know that. Here's another one. Would you go Graham or Bryant on DK utility? We'll talk some more about general plays, but we'll do the either-ors in the Slack. Graham or Bryant on DK utility, who would it be?
Travion Graham or Devontae? It got to be Devontae Graham, I guess, right?
Yeah, and those are pretty different price points too. So it's a little tough, but I guess I would go Bryant because Bryant's cheap, whereas Graham is expensive.
Oh, it's Thomas Bryant by 1,000%. I have Thomas Bryant projected for more fantasy points than Devontae Graham, ignoring salary. So.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I think I have Graham projected for more. Let me just double check that because I don't want to misspeak. See, I've got Bryant at 35. I think Graham might be just under that.
Yeah, for me, it's Thomas Bryant, but I am irrationally high on Thomas Bryant today. And that could go real poorly if he gets into foul trouble with Towns.
Yeah, that is the one risk there. That Towns certainly loves a good head fake, loves that good Joel Embiid head fake at the top of the key and can draw some fouls. But we'll both pray for that together because I guess it would help out Towns if he went out. So we got to really weigh the pros and the cons. Also, Alex has Devontae Graham projected really well. He's been a big Devontae Graham believer since the renaissance for him.
Yeah, I have a little bit, but it's just a testament to how well or how high I have Bryant.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think just relative to the prices too, I think it's hard to ignore Bryant and again, hope that he just doesn't get into foul trouble. That is certainly one thing we're gonna have to pray for. We just got an update on projections, ownership, and boom bust. All those things are updated according to our guy Makad. So check that out. If you are a premium member of the Slack and of the site rather, and of course, if you are a premium member, you should be on Slack because Slack is always giving helpful information. Let's talk about some of these other games that we haven't hit on. I guess we should talk a little bit more about Orlando. We talked about Vucevic. I also talked a little bit about how I like Fournier and his boost that he gets per minute without Jonathan Isaac out there. But I think Vucevic is in a nice spot here too. His price still low. He's at over 45 fantasy points in his last 4 games. But his price keeps dropping. And San Antonio, not the San Antonio of years past, playing with more pace, playing with a poor defensive efficiency rating, 109 for them. So I like Vooch. I didn't get a ton of him because of the Drummond and Towns situation, where I just like both those guys and their prices and their situations. But where are you shaking out with Vooch in this Magic side other than Al-Farouq Aminu?
Neutral to the field on Vooch. I have like 13% on DK. I don't really have much of Orlando outside of Aminu. It's a really bad spot.
Yeah, it's not a great team total here. I do think Orlando gets a little bit of a boost playing San Antonio, who defensively has given up a good amount to teams recently. But I think to me, it's more that Vooch is priced relatively well and does become a slightly better player because of not having Jonathan Isaac out there, taking his little bit of rebounds off the table and his blocks and all that stuff, and scoring, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think to me, it'd be Fournier and Vooch be the guys I'd want there, and probably not much else. Are you getting anything from Utah? Utah getting a big pace up spot. We talked about Conley, but to me, Mitchell also looks pretty good. Bojan, I don't mind. Rudy Gobert's price is up enough where I don't want to get there too much, but I could see it. Any Utah guys for you?
Neutral to the field on Conley, well under on Donovan Mitchell. I don't really have anybody from Utah.
Okay. Yeah, Mitchell to me is intriguing in the spot. Like I talked about having some Conley. I'm above the field on Conley by a little bit, not a lot. He's only projected for under 5% ownership. So if you are trying to target some Mike Conley revenge, you are getting that at a steep ownership discount. But I think Mitchell just has a pretty good ceiling, and he's been really good. He's had the same assist rate as the deeper dive guys pointed out before us. Same assist rate as Mike Conley does on the year, actually a little bit better than Conley. And also that gigantic usage rate that we come to know and love with Donovan Mitchell. In a pace-up spot going against Memphis, certainly some risk that Memphis doesn't hang in there, but I think Mitchell and Bojan, I think these guys are going to get a lot of nice looks today. And I'd be interested in a little bit of them because I think the upside is pretty big, as Memphis has shown a lot of times.
I actually thought that I would get more Utah today. I don't love the prices as much on DK as I do on FanDuel, but there's just so much value opened up now that I don't want to pay the going rate for Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell with the ability to just save some money elsewhere and get up to higher ceiling players.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. And I like Gobert, and I had him the other day when he had his nice performance, but at 8,100, if he's going to be more expensive than Vooch, if he's going to be 500 less than Drummond, bit of a different equation there. And even being, within range of Towns, I'd rather try to find the money to get to Towns than go to Gobert in this spot where should just have a lot more usage.
Yeah.
We're getting some new people in, by the way, so we should probably just circle back on the Wolves take one more time because I've seen some people talking about it in the chat. One guy was confused about why we would want to have Towns. Towns going to get more usage, going to get more opportunity, going to get more playmaking opportunity, and he's been better with Jeff Teague. So there's a lot of factors to me favoring why I have a lot of Towns. But I guess one more time, your Wolves take, which are the guys you like the most and which are the ones you're going to be under the field on or just relative to the field?
We had someone asking why Karl-Anthony Towns tonight.
Yeah. Somebody was like, why Towns chalk today, which I don't, yeah.
I mean, that should just be obvious. Let's just start there. He's Karl-Anthony Towns. Andrew Wiggins is not going to be on the floor. He's the biggest usage suck on the team, and he's not there. Towns is 3rd in the league this season in fantasy points per minute. And this game is going to be an absolute track meet. Everybody's scoring like 150 on the Wizards right now. Towns would have to die for this game to not go well for him. So here's the jinx is set right now, but he'll be my most exposed player.
So Towns, your 100-yard and a touchdown pick?
Yeah, he's gonna get 100 yards and a touchdown. He might double dong. He's gonna do all of it.
Yeah, it's just two teams who don't defend well. Washington giving up 100, actually, Minnesota giving up 114.2 points per game. Washington giving up 120 points per game, as Josh mentioned. So, that scoring has to come from somewhere, and it's probably not going to come from Gorgie Dang unless Towns gets in a big foul trouble. Then that's certainly a play. But Towns has the usage. Towns is a beast of a player when Wiggins is on the floor. So that's why it would be a chalk Karl-Anthony Towns day.
I pace up spot against a crappy defense for the third best fantasy player in the league so far this season.
Makad does bring up another point, which is a little more salient with our most recent ownership run. Towns now at 40%. Is it at a point for you where the Towns ownership would maybe mitigate or necessitate rather you going the other way and getting less Towns than you currently have?
No chance.
Yeah, I agree. Like he's in a lot of my lineups today. A percentage I'm not even comfortable with saying, but well above that. And when you have the play and the guy looks good to you, like Derek Favors the other day, like I think, or yesterday rather, like he just looked great and I didn't want to not have him. And it ended up the best possible outcome for it. But I think it's sort of a similar situation for Towns. And if it goes south, then it sucks. But logically, there's no reason why it should.
I love that people think that I'm jinxing him right now.
Look, your powers only exist for that in football. We all know that.
Yeah.
And if there's an issue with Towns tonight, well, I guess we've extended your realm of dominance, which
look, if it happens, it happens. I'm not super worried about it. All I know is I'm very comfortable having 80% of Karl-Anthony Towns, and I don't that's just, it is what it is. If it doesn't go well, I'll play it again tomorrow. I'm not too worried about it.
We have two West Coast games, which we haven't touched much on. We talked a little bit about the Boston big situation because of Daniel Tice, but Boston going into Golden State, and we also talked about Draymond, but any interest in the Boston guys or D'Angelo Russell on the other side, whose price is fairly reasonable for a guy who's pretty much doing everything, 33% usage on the year, and really their only shot of staying competitive in this game, it looks like.
Let me look. Let me just add a filter to this table quickly. I just realized that I didn't have team on here. There we go. Team, Boston. I have 15% Kemba on DK and 3.5% Jason Tatum. That's it. Ultimately, no, I do not have a lot of Boston.
I have a little bit of Kemba because I do think he has upside. He's just been missing a lot of shots recently, but he's had more assist upside without Gordon Hayward out there. Has about a 25% assist rate in that time, which is a pretty decent jump. Marcus Smart, I also find intriguing, though I didn't quite get there. His assist rate also takes a pretty big jump, and he's been playing fairly well. But Kemba to me would be the one guy I'd want. I wish I had a little more D'Angelo just because I think he can have a decent day. We have seen high usage guards, including Bradley Beal the other day, going off against Boston. Even though they defend well, they can sometimes get bludgeoned by force. So I don't mind Russell, but I pretty much only have Kemba and Draymond in this game. Not even my boy Jaylen Brown, which hurts a little bit.
Nick Powers wants to know if he should be worried about 90% Rocco exposure. Not really.
No, I'm at like 75 and I don't love it. Like Covington's certainly the third piece. We talked about that, the third banana by far in that group, but still a guy who should be getting a boost there, should get some threes, should get some looks, probably some rebounds too because of the pace. So I don't hate it.
I mean, I've got 60, but if it said 90, it's not like I'd be changing anything.
No, I think it's just, for me, a lot of my lineup builds today were just, all right, I have Teague, Covington, and Towns. What else am I doing? Yeah. And I think that's sort of, and Draymond too, honestly, is in that mix, which worrisome, but that's just the way it shook out based upon the prices. And Thomas Bryant. I mean, Thomas Bryant, and there's a really obvious chalky lineup today that includes those guys, Covington, Teagues, Teague. God damn it. Why is it Teagues? Why is Teagues the thing that we're both saying?
Because you're saying it after Towns.
Teague, Towns. Teague, Towns, Teague. Cheryl Teagues too, I think, is probably doing it mentally, even though I barely know who that is.
That one's not the reason it's happening for me.
I think it's part of mine because I know she's a historically hot figure in the world, and I feel like that still resonates for me. She's dedicated an episode on Family Guy to her with Quagmire trying to win her love.
I truly have no idea who she is. I know the name. I don't know what she looks like.
She was in Charlie's Angels, I believe, and she was like the hot chick of the 70s. So before we were both born.
Nope.
Maybe
that doesn't help me. Can't remember who else. Cameron Diaz. Who else were the Charlie's Angels in the reboot? Lucy Liu?
No, original
Lucy
Charlie's. Yeah, Lucy Liu is in the reboot, and then there was a reboot of the reboot
Kristen
now
Stewart.
with Kristen Stewart and
yeah,
some other chicks who I don't.
I only know it's Kristen Stewart because of Hot Ones.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, Kristen Stewart. That seemed like a really odd move for her, given that she's missed indie movie and then she does Charlie's Angels.
I gotta secure the bag sometimes.
You got this. Yeah. That's what the show is all about, guys, grabbing the bag. So hit that like button too. Obviously, you're trying to grab the bag tonight, just like Kristen Stewart. That's what that's every DFS show's tagline. Get that bag like Kristen Stewart. So hit that like button for Charlie's Angels, for Cheryl Teagues, and for Jeff Teagues, her long forgotten son, Jeff Teagues. Anyway, the other West Coast game too, we should hit on briefly because not a lot of ownership going to LeBron. LeBron has his 50% assist rate. We're not going to have any Avery Bradley in there, which makes the defense perhaps a bit worse. Maybe opens up something minutes-wise too. Who knows? Alex Caruso is somebody people asked about a little bit before. I at least saw one person asking about that. And AD, I think, is kind of intriguing here just because he hasn't had the big game. He's now priced down under 10K on DraftKings. So I do have a little bit of AD just as a Towns pivot or a Drummond pivot. Are you getting any of these Lakers, or are you getting chalked Corey Joseph a few days late?
I have 0 LeBron. I have a staggeringly low amount of Anthony Davis, which surprises me. So I'm under the field there. I don't have. Where's Sacramento? I have 2 lineups with Corey Joseph, and that's it. No, 2 lineups with Rashawn Holmes. No other lineups with Kings. That's on DraftKings. I have 2 lineups with LeBron on FanDuel and half the field on Corey Joseph.
Okay. Yeah, I think I don't have any Corey Joseph tonight. And I think it is Alex made a good point on the deeper dive where if a guy bombs like that, it's probably logical to go back to him. And he had 38 minutes last game, even though he got a quick hook in that first quarter. And he did go to Yogi Ferrell and give him some run. Corey Joseph could certainly get there, but a pace down spot. I know Avery Bradley's going to make the defense worse. So, maybe there's a logic in that, but I really don't want Corey Joseph because I did that once and now he's higher priced on DK and I don't need that.
I'm sure Avery Bradley will make the defense better.
We'll make the defense better for Joseph. I mean,
yes.
Like it'll make the defense worse in as much as Corey Joseph maybe this will be the game he thrives and puts up a 15% usage rate instead of 9.
11 minutes, guys. Coming down the home stretch.
Yeah, so guys, hit that like button and also get your lineups in or start getting them in. If you have any questions, I'm looking at both chats right now. Check the premium Slack, see what's going on. Morgan Smith in the premium Slack asking Draymond and IT or Aminu and Tatum in DK cash. That would definitely be Draymond and IT for me. What do you think?
Draymond and Isaiah Thomas.
Or Aminu and Tatum in DK cash.
Where's Tatum? Oh, yeah. Did Draymond and Isaiah Thomas just because you shouldn't have Jason Tatum in cash?
Yeah, you shouldn't have him in cash. And also Draymond and Thomas are 2 of the highest owned guys on the slate. So I would certainly, who are reasonably priced.
I mean, I wouldn't be playing Isaiah Thomas in cash either, but that's neither here nor there.
I don't have an issue playing him in cash. He's playing 30 minutes a game and starting. Like, I don't think he has the GPP ceiling I want right now, but I think
he played 30 minutes once.
He's been high 20s. Like, it's not like it's that much of a jump.
I wouldn't be surprised if he played 22 minutes one day and Ish Smith played 28, which happened 3 games ago.
No, okay, that's fair. But he still got like what 20 something fantasy points in that.
I have no idea. I just know that he played 19 minutes. I would not be playing Isaiah Thomas in cash on a day like today. That's lunacy.
Okay, I don't have an issue with it because if he's going to be one of the top 10 owned guys, and I think he's got a pretty decent floor. He got 20. So in that day that he had 20 minutes, he had 15.5 fantasy points, and that was against Indiana. In this spot, I wouldn't mind Isaiah in cash, but I get your logic with it. I understand.
Not on a day like today.
I find him safe. I just think he doesn't have the big upside, but who knows? Let's see. Are you over the field on Drummond on DK? Makad is asking. I am, yes. Are you over the field on Drummond? I think you answered this, but one more time.
I haven't seen his name. No, I'm half the field.
Okay. I'm over the field on him. I think it's a nice spot against Charlotte, and I'm not worried about the Blake thing. Blake has been hurting him, but his price is too low. He's had foul trouble the last 3 games. That's why he's been worse. And then the Miami thing, too, that's 6 a.m. He's a big guy. He's probably got sleep apnea. I'll give him an excuse. I'll give him a pass on that back half of the back-to-back last time out. Checking the YouTube chat, see if anybody's got anything good in here. For some reason, they're naming mid-90s basketball players and saying they're ruled out. Monte Ellis ruled out. Eric Snow ruled out. So that's YouTube chat, always helpful. Appreciate you guys.
Sometimes I do love them.
I enjoy when they get wacky in there, just not annoying wacky.
It does get fun sometimes.
Let's see. Kojo easy play, no De'Aaron Fox. Apparently, Poker Pro Eric did not play the slate the other day.
Yeah, now that his price isn't low, I'm very not interested.
Yeah. You know, that's
unless he got like a talent transplant at some point in time in the last 2 days.
Yeah, maybe he and De'Aaron Fox had like a face-off thing.
Freaky Friday.
What was that?
They Freaky Friday'd each other.
They did. They both made a wish into a water fountain of some sort, throwing a coin in, and got electrocuted at the same time.
De'Aaron Fox was like, "I wish I wasn't hurt," and Corey Joseph was like, "I wish I were good," and they were just like. And now all of a sudden, Corey Joseph's like really fast and good at basketball, and De'Aaron Fox is, I don't know, still hurt, I guess.
Shout out to Nicholas Rebonte for the super chat. We appreciate it. Is 4 Wolves too many on FanDuel? We talked about this earlier, but I think 4 Wolves is about the max you should be playing on all the sites. But where are you shaking out with the 4 Wolves on FanDuel?
I mean, I think it's fine. It kind of depends on what kind of contest you're in and what the rest of your lineup looks like, but that's the most I would want in a lineup.
Or upwards of 6.
No scenario should you do that.
I told Josh that out of my lineups today, I have a couple where I just put in 6. I was like, let's just see what happens. I don't know. It's a high-scoring game. Can get weird. But still, like, yes, 4 would be the one that you're comfortable with. And to me, it would be going to Towns, Teague, Covington, and then one of the Okogie, Layman, Culver, and then Travion Graham tier. But that tier certainly the most flighty of them all. And Okogie, I think we agree now overall. Like Okogie is the one that we like the most out of that group.
Yeah. Josh probable Spags in.
Oh, there we go. Eddie Fear Games Time. Also, real fast, by the way, guys, we got 5 minutes or 6 minutes left to lock. So start getting your lineups in. But also, it is fast Eddie Fear's birthday. He just isn't on the show Fridays generally because we give him some time off. We all get some days off from Live Before Lock, but it is his birthday. So if you want to go wish him a happy birthday, whatever, want to give him something snarky, go right now to Fast Eddie Fear on Twitter. He is on there. He loves all the messages from you guys. So give him some love, give him some birthday love because it is his special day. And I'm sure he's having a grand old time. I saw he was eating a monster, a king-size Kit Kat earlier. So could you have a better birthday when you're indulging sugar in the middle of the day? I'd say no. Especially for him. He doesn't even eat carbs usually.
Yeah, he ate bread last night.
Yeah, he did. I saw that, the pretzel roll. That was 2 nights ago, right? That was with you.
Oh, yeah. Shit. Oh, God, that was 2 nights ago already? Oh, where does time go?
It's hard when you have 7 days a week. So I'm telling you, man, like I told you before the show, I had to make a vet appointment and I was like, Callie's needed to go to the vet for 2 weeks because she gets allergies and she gets really itchy. And I took the trash out and she like my yellow lab, you usually see in the background of the videos, scratched her elbow up pretty bad. And now I'm like, I just have to go because every day keeps blurring together and I keep forgetting to make the vet appointment. And now Callie's scratching her poor elbows to death. Poor puppy.
Scratching my elbows now.
Yeah, look, itchy elbows are a very serious issue in the Labrador and Chubster communities.
Yes. I mean, luckily I can just touch mine like this, not have to do all weird shit.
Yeah, she's got to go like this. She's got to kick around and it's probably inaccurate. That's why. Shout out William Stevens for the super chat. We appreciate you, Big Bill Stevens. Asking for Devontae Graham or Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is one part of the question. And then Beal or Russell is the second part of it for a FanDuel GPP. So, Josh, those 2 things for you, Devontae Graham and Shea, and Beal or Russell. What would be your 2 picks out of those out of that quadrant?
I have more SGA than Graham, and I have way more Beal than Russell. So SGA and Beal at the top.
Yeah, for FanDuel, I think it would be Graham on FanDuel, and I would go Beal. I just don't like Shea that much. I don't like him at his DK price, and I actually do like Graham at his DK price. So it's the flip, or not even the flip. They're just equal on FanDuel. So I would go Graham. Let's see. Spags would be drinking alcohol on my birthday. Yeah, well, for some of us, that's every day. No, it's actually alcohol. I'm not. Now that White Claw's not in my life. Look at McCod's chat. I won't read it out loud because that's a slippery slope. Hen Dog asking IT or Conley for a FanDuel GPP. That's an interesting question. You said that's a middle, pretty much a split for you, but on FanDuel, what would it be, IT or Conley?
Conley. IT did not show up in a single crunch that I did.
Yeah, it would be Conley for me. On DK, I talked about it earlier. I would probably favor IT's price, but on FanDuel, where it looks a little bit closer, I would go Conley.
Yeah, he wasn't in my player pool.
All right.
Actually,
looking
is
at
he a shooting guard? And I just didn't show up in my player pool.
No respect for the short people.
Guess not.
I'm playing Terry Rozier. Rest in peace, me. Isaiah Battle says a few days late on that, my friend, but still, he's still priced well enough. I think Alex let him projected pretty well, so I don't hate it.
I think I had a little bit actually. Where's he hiding? Just saw the name. Where did it go? There it is. Yeah, I'm neutral to the field right now.
Okay. Hold on. All right. Looking through the rest of this. Anything else you're getting now in your final crunches? And guys, 3 minutes left to start really getting those lineups in. Put your finest touches on there, but get it going. Anything else you're noticing in your final crunches that the people should maybe want to be aware of?
No, I really haven't done it. I haven't done anything since the previous crunch. So everything that I said before is the same. Towns, Aminu, Shea, Covington, Bryant, Teague, D'Angelo Russell, Layman, Monk. Those are just in order of my exposures.
Oh, also somebody on Twitter sent us an image link to Cheryl Teague, so we can we can peruse that after the show.
I have 3.5% Isaiah Thomas on DraftKings, so that is essentially my biggest fade of the day.
It's gonna be a downer when he goes for 50 on you.
I hope that doesn't happen.
I don't think it will. It's impossible with Bradley Beal. That's just not that can't ever happen. I don't think. The day that Beal's out, though, what a day for IT that'll be. Also, the Pistons lineup, by the way, which we didn't hit on, but I think it's worth noting because Derrick Rose now not starting. He did start last game, but it's going to be Brown, Kennard, Snell, Griffin, Drummond in that starting group. So maybe Rose gains a little more appeal coming off the bench, even though he only played 20 minutes last game. All right, let's see. Anything good here?
What games are what? Hornets, Pistons, Magic, Spurs. Man, what a terrible 2 games.
This guy Nick Rahal in the chat, not happy with Mason Rudolph. I agree. He's a terrible player, but it's okay, Nick. We have NFL streams for that, buddy.
Yeah, or just, grow up.
Big time Steeler asking Trey Lyles or Aminu. The safer play is certainly Aminu, but I wouldn't mind taking a stab on Lyles on a good rebounding matchup.
It's 1,000% Aminu.
Yeah. Look, if Aminu goes off today, I'll be really bummed, but I have very little Aminu. That was not a play I wanted today.
Yeah, they are not comparable plays today.
Oh, yeah, I would agree. I mean, Aminu, you're probably locking in for high 20s minutes. Lyles has had a cap of like 20 for whatever reason. They just don't seem to play him that.
And Aminu is $600 cheaper.
Yes, that too. Oh, Morgan Smith took down a single entry last week. Good job, Morgan. Proud of you.
Nice.
Proud of you, buddy. All right. Should be locked now, guys. So hit that like button right now. Of course, thank you as always to Fantasy Draft, the official home of Rake Free DFS. Go to fantasydraft.com and use that promo code AWESEMO for your free week and your entry into the world of Rake Free DFS. It'll save you so much money. And check out the Hooters main event this week. It's been a tournament a lot of guys that we work with have had success with. So check that out at fantasydraft.com. Of course, we do have night slate projections as well and ownership projections. Those get updated as we go. So go to awesemo.com/join and use that promo code live before lock. It'll give you all the information you need at your fingertips. And if you use that promo code live before lock, get half off your first month. We have packages as low as $3.95 a week on there. So check that out. And you have time? You want to do some daddy likes or do you want to call it quits?
I've got more than enough time. The wife is at board game night. So.
Oh. You don't want to do board game night? Or are you just
board game girls night?
Oh, okay. I feel like you would cheat at board games too.
No, not at all. We play a lot of board games. I'm into we play a lot of board games.
What's your favorite board game?
So we've been playing a game called Azul a lot lately. There's a bag full of like little squares. A bunch of them are different. They're like 5 different colors. You pick out 4 at a time and set them on a draw pile. And your goal is to sort of build like this 5x5 picture with them. Get a certain amount of points by placing them in each spot. That's been the game we've played the most as of late. Favorite board game is probably Pandemic.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I have friends who like that. There's been a board game renaissance, which actually South Park hit on this week. They talked about like the board game clubs and whatever, and
Yeah.
YouTube streams of people playing like dice games. But it's funny. Like I thought you were going to go Settlers of Catan, which I feel like was a game we used to make fun of one of my best friends for. We used to love that game. And now like legitimately like attractive college girls play it. And it really blows
it's like
my
one
mind.
of the most it's the board game that unlocked like the board game culture that exists now.
Yeah. Yeah. Which you watch Parks and Rec?
No.
Okay, so Adam Scott on that show has a board game that's popular too, and that's kind of a similar thing. But really intricate board games, I feel like really in vogue right now. So
Yeah.
You're trendy out there in North Carolina.
Yeah, we've got a really cool board game shop in Wilmington. They just opened like a cafe next to it too, so we try to hit that up every like month or two and get something new. Married
life, hitting the board game shop.
AJ Grant
it's honestly that's kind of the ideal. Somebody you can hang out with and play board games with. I think is my platonic ideal, at least.
Josh seems like a Monopoly thimble type of guy. Yeah, no Monopoly.
Monopoly is like how you fight with your friends.
Yeah. I mean, Monopoly is a game that ends in 45 minutes, but you have to play it for 6 hours.
Yes, yeah, and you have to be run bankrupt. Like there's enough of that in life, guys.
Yeah.
Just a quick tangent. One of my friends, who actually is also down in North Carolina, has been dating a girl who, when she gets drunk, she cheats at board games, and I'm like, that's like the worst sign. Like, how could you date somebody? How could you be with somebody who cheats at board games?
We've got one of those in our friend circle.
It's like have some ethics.
It's not like cheat. Like if nobody's looking, they're like grabbing a stack of hundreds from the Monopoly money pit. But just like swapping out cards and stuff in the middle of games. If she doesn't like what she has, that stuff drives me insane. When I play a board game, I play that shit to win. We play lethal games of Sorry when my parents are in town.
Sorry and Trouble, I do enjoy the simplicity of those. I'm a big fan of. All right, let's do some daddy likes for Uncle Chubbs and Uncle Spags likes. So this one I like where I shook out on this one. Al-Farouq Aminu, chalk of the day in the whatever the big tournament is on DK. It has some stupid name. 39% ownership for Al-Farouq Aminu. Where'd you shake out with old AFA?
What? How old was he?
39.
I have 63.
Jesus Christ! All right, so we've been agreeing a lot lately. So this is one we have disagreed on. I'm not Team Al-Farouq.
Okay.
But 39's a lot, but that's good for you then. So Uncle Chubbs likes that then.
Well, I liked it a lot more when we had it. Well, I mean, I didn't grab any updates or anything towards the end. We had him at 20 on my last one. It wasn't going to change anything for me.
All right, Andre Drummond at 23%. Uncle Spags likes that. I got more than that. How are you feeling about Drummond at 23?
I had 13. We basically nailed that one. I'm not really happy to have that little, but at the same time, I got to 80% Karl Towns. So,
yeah, look. We're in agreement on that at least. Nikola Vucevic at 10%. How does Uncle Chubbs feel about that?
That seems about right. I have 14. These are the types of guys that are like, if you're playing multiple lineups, you are rotating through them.
Yeah, I have 15 as well, Vucevic, so I'm okay with that. I thought it was a nice price for him. I wouldn't hate having more of a split of him, Drummond, and Towns, just based on how I should have thought about it. But I just like Towns too much, so it is what it is. Terrence Ross at 10% is number 4, which seems like a lot of Terrence Ross. I would be down on that.
How much Terrence Ross?
10%.
I have 5.
I don't have any, so could be an error on my part. And I do like Terrence Ross, but yeah, no, I'm not. I have much more Fournier, who is not even. Where is he? Oh, Fournier is at 7%. I have like 20% of them.
I might not have any.
How about Blake at 7? That's kind of interesting.
I have 0 Blake. I have 0 Fournier.
Okay. Devontae Graham at 6.2%. I would like that, given the fact that he can certainly bounce back and just had one down game.
6.2. Yeah, I have 5.8. So that same sort of amount, just neutral.
And we'll just run through some interesting ones here because
Sure.
I think a lot of these guys we're not going to be super, super caring about. Derrick Rose at 4.3, not the craziest. Luke Kennard at 4. I think he actually did maintain his usage with Griffin back in the lineup, which surprised me. But still a little bit pricey for what he can do. So, yeah, I don't mind it though. Let's see. Anybody else interesting? Malik Monk at 3% certainly can be a good play if he keeps that going.
I got a bit more than that.
Look, Malik Monk's a good player. He just doesn't put it together. Is he a good? Well, I don't know if he's a good player. Good fantasy player. Let's say that.
Well, Malik Monk will be interesting if he goes crazy.
Yes, at 3%. And if he keeps doing what he's been doing, that's certainly going to be a nice spot.
I have 26.
Oh, okay. So that you are 8 times the field.
Yeah.
Okay. Go Malik Monk. I'll root for him for you. Miles Bridges, 3%. PJ Washington, 3%. LaMarcus Aldridge at 2%. I think that's unfair. He's not been good, but 2%, he's still cheap enough to have some upside.
I don't have him at all.
I think I've got 5 or 10 somewhere in there. So I don't mind it. DeRozan at 2 as well. Not a great spot versus Orlando, but I wouldn't mind having a little bit of these guys. Trey Lyles at 1%, Augustine at 1%, Michael Carter-Williams at 1%, and Jonathan Isaac at 0.5%. So a lot of people out there played themselves. They did not pay the rake, but they're helping out. But happy birthday, Fast Eddie Fear. Jonathan Isaac fans played themselves. So there we go. So guys, hit that like button. Again, go to Fast Eddie Fear on Twitter. Wish him a happy birthday because it is his birthday. He'll be back tomorrow and Sunday with your old pal EMAC doing the Live Before Lock thing. So watch those guys do a great show on the weekends and a very entertaining show as well because those guys have known each other for years.
Yeah.
So tune in then. And Josh, anything you want to plug here before we call it quits?
No, light Saturday tomorrow. Soccer is on international break. We've got an MMA card coming up. But no, just best of luck. Great Friday. Shout out to Fantasy Draft for being the presenting sponsor. And I'll see you guys again. Well, you and I will see these guys again Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I'll see them with you on Sunday afternoon. I'll see them tomorrow. And on the contrary, will be me, Alex, and I believe TJ Hernandez from 4 for 4, whatever that fantasy football site is.
Correct.
Very smart guy. So a good site that we'll be talking about all the contrary things. So tune in then. And we wish you guys the best of luck and a great weekend. So enjoy your nights, guys, and good luck.